This time, I'd like to go ahead and get this meeting of the Ascension Parish Planning Commission started. Have a few announcements I'd like to make at this time. Item 16B, Riverwood Subdivision, has been pulled from our agenda. We will not be discussing that item this evening. Also, if anyone in the audience has a cell phone, we'd like to ask you to turn it off. It does interfere with the audio. Tonight I'm going to remind the commissioners that we will be using the bylaws that we adopted at last month's meeting. We will have the time limits are in place. The initial presentation of an item is 10 minutes. If it's a public hearing, we have individuals wishing to speak. They will have a 3-minute time limit for each individual. There is a spokesperson for a group, 5 minutes, and the rebuttal time is 5 minutes. If commissioners have questions, I would ask you to make your questions as direct as possible, and when your question is answered, indicate that you have the answer to your question. Let the record show all commissioners are present with the exception of Mr. Julio Dumas. This time I'd like to open the floor up for public comment. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on any agenda item, not up for public hearing, please come up, sign in, and you'll get your 3 minutes. No one wishing to speak during the public comment period. Okay. Well, yes, ma'am.
I wanted to take about 3 minutes to make a short presentation.
And your name is, please?
My name is Margaret Lee.
And your presentation is in respect
to development in general, Bayou Grand North subdivision and drainage and the development in that area.
Okay.
I have some handouts that I wanted to give you because I have a chart of all the development in the area. Ms. Irene Peterson's going to deliver that to you. The Grand Goudine area is flooding at Tiggy Duplessis, Highway 621 and Bayou Grand North area. I am one of the neighborhood leaders. We've had meetings on this area. There's like 15 references to the Goudine in the last 3 years from the planning minutes as far as the receiving basin. Oak Meadow is an area down the street from me where my mother lives. There's flooding from in older subdivisions by new subdivisions. That was a comment that was made at a drainage board meeting recently. I have found it difficult to find out information on some of the developments. Talked to the parish and was referred to some engineers, the engineers for some of the developments and the parish consultant engineer. I've researched Secretary of State's database to get some information, as well as the parish website and the advocate. Mostly the parish website. I went through the actual minutes of the meetings to find all the developments in our area that could be causing these problems in the proposed developments. I would like to see us, again, try to hold developers and engineers responsible. A lot of times no one knows their name. They just know the name of the subdivision, or they know the name of the developing company or the engineering company. We have one in particular, Right or Wrong. It's called Right or Wrong LLC. LLC is a limited liability corporation. There's not a whole lot you can do sometimes with a limited liability corporation as far as holding them responsible. We'd like to see that you require engineers to fix the problems before they develop some more subdivisions, and I'm referring to GWS, who brought up Silverstone, and we have flooded neighbors in Silverstone, and now they're developing Triton subdivision where the old airport is across the street from there. And besides that, coming up with another one. The second one you'll see on that list that you have is Essen Terrace. It's right next to it. It's near Bishop Woods. Bishop Woods had 4 foot of their retention pond that overflowed during this recent last flood. If you'll look at that chart, it does list all of our area development, and it goes back to 2002, and I just went through the minutes of the meeting on the parish website to find that out. The growth for the area shows that Highway 73 is 45% in traffic increase. Highway 74 is a 50% traffic increase. Mainly, we're concerned right now about the drainage in the area because we have had houses in our subdivision flood 3 times, vehicles that have flooded from Grand Goudin. Anything that is coming through the Grand Goudin Basin is, with new development, is basically going to flood the older subdivisions. Retention ponds are not necessarily working. They're overflowing. We are getting sewage treatment plant coming through our neighborhoods. We get drainage from Highway 621. We're concerned about drainage coming from these new developments like Triton. Over at Duplessis Street, there's a number of subdivisions going up on Duplessis Street. Zero impact has not occurred because we can show you, there has been a significant amount of extra flow coming into the Goudin that services our area. Drainage ordinance will help. I know it'll give you some more enforcement powers. There's been public health issues as far as what's coming through. We have dogs that are sick, and because of the types of water that's coming through the drainage. We'd like to see that the commission doesn't rubber stamp the approval of these subdivisions. I went through since 2002, and I never saw a no to anything on any of those subdivisions.
30 seconds, ma'am.
I'm almost finished. The commissioners, I know that there are some that are realtors and even engineers, and we like to make sure that there's no conflict of interest with the commissioners, and we appreciate your volunteerism. However, we'd like you to take your responsibility serious. I'm asking for a moratorium on development for anything that has a receiving basin of Grand Goudin for the next 6 months. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. All right, item 4 on the agenda, acceptance of the minutes of the May 10th, 2006 meeting.
Move that we approve.
I have a motion by Mike Bardwell to approve.
Second.
Second by Steve Barrow. Is there any opposition? Motion passes. Shows up as item 6 on your agenda, but I'm going to assume it's item 5. Acceptance of the simple division of property approved by the Planning Commission Chair from May 1st, 2006 to May 31st, 2006.
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Steve Barrow.
Second.
Second by Scott Courtwright. Is there any opposition? Motion passes. This would be end up being item 6A on your agenda. It's a public hearing for granting approval for family partition, Cecil J. Vadrine property lots CV-1 through CV-5.
Ellen Jackson with McLean and Associates. This is a family partition to be given to children. There weren't any comments. Asking for your approval.
Comments or questions from commissioners at this time? Okay, then we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this property, please come up, sign in. You'll get your 3 minutes to speak. No one wishing to speak on this property. One more time. Comments, questions from commissioners at this time? Okay, what's the wish of the commission?
Based on the fact this meets all the criteria set forth in the ordinances for family partitions, I move that we approve.
Have a motion to approve by Mike Bardwell and a second from Don Grant. Is there any discussion or opposition? Motion passes. Item 6B, the Adam Pierre Paron Estates, Lot 6A and 6B.
Ellen Jackson again with McLean and Associates. This is a family partition being to create to give to a stepson. There weren't any comments, asking for your approval.
Comments or questions from commissioners at this time? No comments or questions from the commission. Anyone wishing to speak, I'll open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this property, please come up, sign in, and you'll get your 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name's Russell Heath. I have the property directly south of this property in question. I guess I'm going to keep it very brief. I would like to ask a question about where the drainage is going to be on it. I don't have a current plot plan. I have the original one, where the drainage is going to fall and where the sewer is going to go. I have a water well within 12 foot from the property line on the south side that the proposed ditch is going across. And the cross ditch, which was originally on 6C, now it looks like it's on 6B maybe. It's merely nothing but a swell on my property. It was only original drainage for a farm ditch years ago. It's not deemed a ditch. I don't know why they call it a ditch on this property. I'm just worried about where the sewage goes. That's my question.
Any comments or questions from commissioners at this time? Go ahead.
Michael, on the cross ditch on lot 6B, proposed lot 6B, that servitude was existing, right? On that ditch? 5 on one, was that existing or was that added?
Back, well, I don't know what's the back or the front. On the south side of 6B?
Kind of through,
It's kinda
right
in the
through the
middle.
middle of 6B.
Oh, okay, I thought that was a lot line.
No, that was a
Well, I think the ditch is probably existing, right?
It's a this existing ditch. When we first submitted, it was so small that we didn't really pick it up, but then DPW asked for it, so that's why we put a servitude on there.
So
If
the
there's an
servitude's
existing
added.
ditch, they have to.
So the servitude's been added.
Yeah,
As of
for
this plat.
As of this plat,
This is
yes.
a new servitude, right?
I guess my question, Michael, that would really be for you. I mean, if you've got a 15-foot servitude here, and I'm going to go ahead because it's not specified as a drainage servitude, but I'm going to assume because it's running along the property line, it is a drainage servitude. Now, if someone builds on the newly created lot, and they put a sewer treatment system in, wouldn't they be putting the sewer effluent into that drainage servitude?
That would be an issue for the Board of Health, but I would presume if that ditch is deep enough, yes, they could.
I know it's come before the commission before as far as a subdivision, and we've denied one because there was a water well within, I think the limit is 50 feet. And we did deny the subdivision because of that, among other reasons. I mean, for me, there's maybe a Department of Health issue, but there's a question in my mind concerning that.
As to what is the fact that the ditch is through the middle of the lot?
Well, if we have once again, it goes back to, we've got a resident adjacent property owner who has said he's got a water well 12 feet from the property line, and we've got a 15-foot drainage servitude right there. And it is going to be used as far as you're going to use it for drainage and the possibility of sewer effluent.
Well, I mean, that would really be up to a permit issue with the Board of Health as to whether or not the proximity of the water well would not allow him to have his effluent from his, I mean, I'm not sure how the Board of Health would rule on that, but my read would be that would be a Board of Health issue, as to issue a permit for a sewer treatment plant if it is in proximity to a water well.
It might be a DEQ issue also because
Right.
they regulate the effluent discharge from sewer
I mean,
treatment. They also permit what
Would probably
can
have
be
to
in the
do with the depth of
conveyance.
the well and which direction the ditch is draining. And
It seems like the two agencies would not want the potential of a release from that plant to be in the ditch servitude.
Excuse me. Can I call your
Yes, sir.
attention to the requirements for installing a sewer system by Board of
Can-
Health, particularly items 5, 6, and 10?
Michael, do you mind summarizing those?
the plant must be at least 50 feet from any water well. So his
That would be
lot is
for the-
100,
That'd be for the side ditch.
150 feet in depth, so he would have the ability to do it. The plant and tail line must be at least 10 feet from a property line, which he could do. Parish or state maintained ditch bordering the property for the discharge. Plant will not be approved as running to a private ditch or onto or across someone else's property. But
That will be for the cross ditch.
I guess my position would be not to get into Board of Health issues here.
Okay.
I mean, that, just because you are approving this plat does not mean that you're approving, you don't know where he's going to build his house, you don't know where the sewer treatment plant's going to go or the tail line's going to go, and you don't really, on the plat itself, you have no documentation of exactly where this water well is. But if he can't meet the Board of Health requirements, then that's going to be an issue with the Board of Health.
So if we, O'Neill, if we do say approval as far as all the engineering specs are met, we could put it with a caveat that the DHH limits have to be met for the future build.
That's a requirement of DHH.
Right, exactly.
Requirement of him getting the permit, just to get the permit.
So the two issues are really separate.
That's a separate issue.
Correct.
Yeah, let me clarify something you said. We're not doing an engineering review of this.
No,
We're simply looking at the plat. Does it meet the checklist for a family partition?
absolutely.
So I don't believe there's any implication that we're certifying by creating this parcel that he's going to be able to pull a DHH permit to do a sewer treatment plant. That's an issue between that property owner and DHH. If they can't work
I
that
just see it
out.
as two different issues. The plat's fine. If it's designed the way and everything's fine, that's great. The second issue is once you get into the actual details of the build, you have to follow DHH and DEQ limits and standards on
Right.
sewer treatment plants and effluents and where it can go. Clearly, if it says not in a cross ditch or across a piece of property, then that's
Right.
a constraint.
I'm sure you've approved several of these family partitions with a water well within 50 feet of the subdivided property. You just may not have somebody coming up making it a public record.
Now we know.
Well, you may or you may not. I don't know.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Ms. Jackson, do you have anything further?
No, if it would make a difference if we would try to move the servitude on the other side.
Well, I have no problem with the drainage. I just have a problem with the sewage.
And I mean that's where the Board of Health is going to come into
I
play.
understand it now.
Which I mean, it pretty much sounds like what you're going to have to do is, if this is approved, you would have to take the issue up with the Board of Health to ensure that there are no problems.
Okay. So be it.
You have any other comments, Mr. Heath? Any?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, sir. If there are no other questions or comments from commissioners, what's the wish of the commission? Yes, we have.
Sorry, I'm late, gentlemen, and ladies. I talked to, I forgot what, I didn't get the whole thing, what y'all was saying about the diverting that ditch, but I talked to, I want to say a Godan with, commission.
CJ go down?
Yes, sir. And he said that would be an option. I'm not sure if that's clear, but I talked to him and he said one way I could do is divert it to the back lines or to the front line of the servitude. Yes.
So someone from DPW told you that if there was conflict with where the servitudes are, they could move them?
He didn't say. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what I got from the conversation. I went there with him, asking him if anyone had looked at the ditch, because what they call in a ditch is it's like probably 3 inches deep, 4 inches deep, and it's maybe 10 inches wide. And I didn't see the problem with it being I didn't think I would have any problems with it, so I went and talked to him about it, because once I seen it, they had the servitude on here on my planning. And what I got from the conversation, I thought that was an option, to divert it.
We just talking about, I mean, we talk about maybe covering the ditch up. I'm curious to know about diverting.
No, I mean,
what do we
it runs.
forget about it?
It barely starts on if you're looking at the property from the road on the right-hand side, it just starts on my land. What we're just talking about is diverting it.
Are you
just on
Tyke
the back
Fontenot? Is
line.
that your land, Tyke Fontenot? Is that- no.
I'm Jody Gidrich, sir.
Okay, gotcha.
And just diverting it on the back line, and come around with it.
Let's see what happens.
Mike, are you able to make heads or tails of what's
I don't see why relocating the ditch has any issue, any bearing on the issue. I mean, the gentleman's
Bill-
water well's
Yeah.
on lot 7, right?
Let me try to clear some of this up, maybe. This is just a plat, and what happens is when somebody's ready to build out there, all these servitudes are unimproved servitudes, and where a ditch can be placed. And at the time somebody's going to build or improve the property owner has the responsibility of establishing drainage ditches within those servitudes according to DPW direction and approval. Again, if he goes out there and starts building, he has to get drainage ditches. We approve where the drain is going, and then the health department approves the sewer going into that ditch and where it's going after it meets the ditch. So at this time, nothing's been established for as drainage ditches. These are servitudes for future drainage ditches when they're ready to build. So at that point in time, we go out there and inspect it.
But the 8-foot ditch is existing, I presume, Ellen, if you're showing it on the drawing. Okay.
And if that's a swell, excuse me, if it's just a swell or something, we usually take that in as a natural drainage because it's there. But that can be changed depending on the development and where they propose to put the drainage and if it's approved by DPW and the Drainage Board, to divert the flow from that ditch to something else. Again, it goes through the process, DPW, Drainage Board, and if it meets our approval, then he proceeds with his building of his house or whatever it is.
But I don't see whether he reroutes it or not. The water's draining from apparently from lot 5 to lot 7, and the water well's on lot 7. So the issue is the effluent from wherever he puts the sewer treatment plant is going to flow through lot 7. And this is just as I appreciate the conversation. So him rerouting the ditch doesn't change the man's concern, which I don't. Again, his concern is really with the Board of Health.
Well, talking about diverting the ditch is kind of throwing me off with it too. I mean,
I'm sorry. I got in. I'm sorry for being late. And I got in late on the conversation. I missed who.
I don't think it has.
Just looking at the plat, as far as the servitudes and all, it meets our requirements from what I'm looking at right here. So I mean, based on that, my issue is with the sewer effluent, and if that's a Department of Health issue, then it can be addressed through the Department of Health at such time. So, any other comments or questions from commissioners? Okay, what is the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve because it meets all the ordinances in the parish currently. So make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Scott Courtright.
Second.
Second by Steve Barrow. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 7, public hearing for granting preliminary approval to the following subdivision. 7A, Cessna Street, second filing, a private subdivision.
I'm Karen Kennedy with GWS Engineering. I'm here with the developer requesting approval of this Cessna Street gated community second filing. This is proposed 59-lot subdivision adjacent to the first filing. It's located on 45.7 acres. There is a remaining 15 acres owned by the developer and used as a private airplane landing strip for the first filing and second filing residents. This subdivision is a proposed fly-in community. There will be 24 lake lots and 22 lots with direct access or taxiway access to the existing airplane runway. There are 13 other lots throughout the development that will have no access. We have prepared a drainage and traffic impact study that has been reviewed by the ERA. We have addressed all of the ERA and the staff comments. There were 2 items in the ERA write-up that were for consideration. The first one was that additional topography was requested of the existing spoil banks on the site during the construction phase. We will comply with that. And the second comment was regarding the discrepancy in the drainage impact study between 22 and 75 CFS. Just to clarify this was for the culvert underneath Buddy Gore Road. In the drainage study, we had sized this for off-site flow at the pond's peak, which was 22 CFS, when it should have been sized at the peak of the off-site flow, which was the 75 CFS. We will comply with this condition and prepare to revise the study and the culvert sizing in the construction phase. We'll answer any questions you have.
Comments or questions from commissioners?
I'm a little curious as to why it's called the second filing. When this was originally proposed, it was proposed as 14 lots, correct? First, in the initial filing.
The initial filing, the first filing does have 14 lots, yes. We called this the second filing because it does connect to the first filing with no new roads, just a connector to the existing roadway, and it will eventually be a gated community with only one access to Weber City Road. And for marketing purposes, since this is a fly-in community for the first filing and the second filing, it just made sense to leave it as one development.
Michael, as far as looking at drainage impacts and traffic impact studies, where's the cutoff line? Is it coming forward from this filing, or is everything still being taken into consideration?
Coming forward, you mean?
From this proposal?
We pretty much viewed this as an independent. I mean,
Away from the first filing?
That's correct. The drainage flow is not through or from the first filing, because it's draining directly into Bayou Francois. And then the traffic report took into account, the lots there. But I mean, we're really just viewing it as a standalone subdivision, I think, to answer your question.
Just to clarify, the traffic study was originally done for 84 lots, but after we tweaked it and went to open ditch, it was revised to 59 lots. So if you look at just the traffic study, it could be considered for the first filing as well.
This is a second question. This is a little outside the norm, having a taxiway that meets up with adjoining lots.
It's very unique.
I have to ask the question about, from a safety aspect, fuel storage and such for aircraft. I mean, on the back of these lots, it states that he's proposing like hangars for aircraft. And I'm wondering, from a safety standpoint, what are the considerations for fuel and such?
I'm going to ask the developer to join me up here because I'm not sure how all that will be configured on the site, if at all.
Hi, I'm Steve Joffreon, and I'm developing this with my son, Steve Jr., and I'm a licensed pilot, and we developed and licensed the airstrip. Those are certainly very, very good questions, and I'll address those. First of all, there'll be no fuel storage in this subdivision and on this site at all. There'll be only off-site fuel available. Secondly, what we have planned is, and what we have approved for this subdivision is only the residents and the lots will only be sold to people 55 years of age and older with no minor children. So we won't have kids running around there and having a problem coming into contact with these airplanes. That will not be a problem. The second thing, the structures that we approve by our restrictions will be what are referred to in the flying community as hangar homes. The hangars will be designed as part of the home, and it'll look similar to what a carport or a garage looks like. Just like when you pull up to your home, you'll have a two-car garage, except it'll be about that same size, except it'll have one door, where when the door lifts up, you simply pull the airplane into the structure, which is a hangar instead of a two-car garage. So it's not going to be a separate structure, and this will all be covered by our building restrictions. And they'll specifically prohibit the storage of flammable fuels, specifically aircraft fuel, within the residence or on the lot at all. So we won't have those problems, because we realize, just like you do, that could be an extreme danger. And then again, this is designed. One of the effects of this marketing concept, one of your considerations, and everybody's consideration here, is how is this going to impact the infrastructure? And there's no such thing as designing a subdivision that will not impact the infrastructure at all. But it's our belief that this particular concept will be low impact. The streets, for example, are private streets. The subdivision residents, through the homeowners association, bear the burden of building it. The developers build it, the homeowners maintain it. There'll be no kids there, so most residences, we feel, will have one automobile, maybe two. So even the outflow of the traffic will be minimized. These people will be retired or semi-retired. The concept is that they'll sell off the big home, liquidate that cash, build a smaller facility. We'll have the restrictions will allow for the construction of a smaller home, 1,450 square feet, because the plan is hopefully just to have the husband and the wife retired or semi-retired there. So again, the impact would be much less than if we were building 4-bedroom homes for a family of husband, wife, 2 kids who grew up to be teenagers and wind up with 3, 4, 5 cars, whatever it might be. So we feel like this is very unique, although there's nothing special about us, but it's just a concept that we've come up with. And we've developed the concept over 4 or 5 years after talking to retirement community specialists, working with the governor's office and whatnot. And of course, our belief is, number one, that it's marketable, and number two, that it's a good concept.
Mr. Joffrion,
Yes,
just
sir.
a little bit of clarification. I want to make sure I do understand what you're saying as far as you're saying that the homes in this second filing are the homes that you will be selling to individuals who are 55 or older with no children.
No, sir. We are not home builders. We are developing the subdivision and will offer the lots for sale. But the restrictions on the lots, the people to whom we will sell it will be people that are 55 and older, and the restrictions will run with the lot. So
Is that for this filing, or is this for the whole subdivision? That's what I'm trying to.
it's for the second filing,
Just
all
for
of
the
these
second
lots.
filing.
Yes, sir.
So, in the first filing, you could still have individuals buying homes with children.
Yes, sir.
And as I recall, in this same area, the same overall general piece of property, you did a family partition along when you represented your brother for the family partition for your children, and I'm assuming they have children, so if they build there, then your grandchildren.
I have grandchildren that live on the site. Yes, I do.
So, in other words, there are going to be children in the area, even though you're not selling, or you're not looking at selling these lots to individuals with children.
There are, and as a matter of fact, on the other side, what we plan to do is put up a barrier fence along the runway, so that we'll greatly reduce the possibility of that problem, but not on this side.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Well, O'Neill, just from a legal perspective, is there any, I don't know how pertinent this is to the whole discussion, but is there any issues with limiting the sale of property to people based on their age or number of children?
No, we have another bill in the parish that has the same restrictions. The parish doesn't enforce it.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners?
Yeah, I've got
Yes,
a
sir.
question, and I'm new on the board, so my question might be crazy. R&M in that district, and it says single-family dwellings, it's supposed to be minimum lot size 16,000 square feet. If you take 97 and multiply it times 145, you come up with 14,051 square feet. How are we doing it?
You're going to either meet the square footage or you're going to meet the lot road frontage.
Okay. That I didn't know.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? This time I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on this property? Come up, sign in. You already signed in, ma'am? Would you please state your name for the commission?
Jeanette DePlessis. Rip DePlessis Road.
Mr. Plessis, pull the microphone a little closer to your mouth.
Okay, regarding Rip DePlessis Road, as far as we know, it is a private road. Now we're understanding that it's an extension of this subdivision road, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. At a planning commission meeting in November of '04, I was told it was a dedicated private road, it could not be changed. Now we're understanding this is somehow an extension of that subdivision road, and we don't want that. We just got our little road where the kids can play, and that's all we want. We're not asking for nothing. Who can tell me what's going on?
Well, for this filing, I don't see Rip Duplessis Road on here, but I mean, I do have a question. I was going to hold it until later. I'm still going to hold it until later
Okay.
to address this. As to my knowledge, Rip Duplessis Road is a private road.
Right, the parish
And
does not
I happened to
maintain
go
it.
through some. I happened to be thumbing through some of the old minutes, and I found a family partition a year, 2 years ago on Rip Duplessis Road, and it has in parentheses behind the name Rip Duplessis Road, private road. Now, at one time, I still have my old parish roads list. It showed it as a parish road. I don't know when it changed. Bill, do you have any idea when it changed status?
Officially, it changed in about 2001, I think.
Something
around that time. We were
Okay.
going to go in there and do some improvements. Then it brought to our attention it really never accepted into the parish system. We
Okay.
didn't do any work on it, substantial work, so the parish decided to allow it to stay private.
Okay, so you're figuring it's been a private road since 2001?
Officially.
Officially?
But actually, it was always a private road, as far as I could understand.
Okay.
But officially, it was turned back over in the book, in an official road book, as a private road back in 2001.
Okay, because I know my
Thereabouts.
list listed in there, but it doesn't have it as private, so
Right. But it is private.
it is, okay.
Okay, so it's no extension to this subdivision road.
It shouldn't be.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. How can they put up a gate where it joins, where they can open that gate, but we don't go that way?
At the same time, if the gate is on the developer's property, I mean, it really, I'm kind of confused how this road is even tying into another private road right now.
Well, it comes from the back. We're up front, see?
Well, I understand
And when the
that.
subdivision started, they come to where the road ended.
I understand that, but basically I've got two private roads that are meeting.
Okay?
And apparently the developer has put a gate on at his part of the road. And that's something I'm going to bring up later on. I'm going to put that question to the developer myself.
Okay, because like if a cement truck's got to get to their property, well then they can use our part, our little rinky-dink gravel road, see, instead of using their good road, which they've got a nice road. But that don't bother us. We'd rather have our little road where the kids are comfortable outside, there's no big traffic. But still in all, they have access to this gate. So I don't understand.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I speak now, or
You-
should I wait till
No,
later?
go ahead.
Have you signed in already,
Yes,
sir? Okay, would you state your name for the commission, please, sir?
My name is Joseph Moller Jr. I'd like to hand out some papers to y'all, if y'all don't mind.
No, all that's been signed.
Yes.
All right, I have several questions myself. When all this subdivision first started getting built, all the dump trucks, the cement trucks, and everything were coming down our road, which is Rip Duplessis Road. Mr. Steve and them had a dirt road. Well, I'd like to clarify. My argument is in no way, shape, or form against Mr. Steve. I like Mr. Steve. He's done represented me before. He's only doing what the parish allowed him to do. I'd just like to say that. I have a letter from my lawyer asking for documentation of the maintenance that they performed on the road. Before I got this lawyer, I tried to get documentation and couldn't get it. That was the whole purpose. I had to go get a lawyer. After she sent the letter, they sent back the list showing where they did these maintenance that they have listed. But on several of these, there's stop signs and road signs and things like that, and several other people with the parish told me that that's not even considered maintenance on roadways. That's more of a safety reason, you know, for fire departments and ambulance and stuff like that. And I have a letter here from when my cousin bought some property at the front of our road to the side of Rip Duplessis, November 11, 2004. at the bottom of that it says that Rip Duplessis is a private road. The following month, Mr. Steve submitted another paper for a subdivision with the date past the other date, and yet it got approved, and it's tying in our road. Now, the road used to not go all the way to where it goes at now. The road ended at the last house on our road's driveway. Somebody allowed them to come through there, tear down the fence, extend the road, and put a culvert and tie the road into his road. The road never went that far before that subdivision started being built. So I guess that's all I have to say. And then Mr. Bill did print up a letter stating that it is now a private road, but they never had no documentation where it was ever accepted as a parish road, where my grandfather signed it over as a parish road right from the start, but yet I couldn't keep any of the equipment off our roads. They had a parish truck come through there and get stuck in a pickup truck. Another parish truck had to come get him out, but he had to come around through Mr. Steve's side to get in the front of him to be able to pull him out. And then after everything was built in the back and their road was nice and neat, they pretty much quit using our road and started using their road, and the parish turned it back over, and then we had to come up and fix the road. The parish wouldn't come through there and fix any of it. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone else? Okay.
Ready for me to respond?
Yep. You get your 5 minutes.
Okay. As far as Rip Duplessis Road, I'm not sure exactly what happened with the first filing, but I know with this filing there is no intention to change any of the configuration of the roadway at Rip Duplessis, and it is my understanding that that is a private road, so they should have no concerns with that.
You had a question you want to ask?
I'm kind of curious about the gate that I saw. It
Sure.
looks like it's an electronic gate.
No. Let me address that. Initially, when we did the family partition and the first Cessna Street, before we built the existing road, asphalt road, we understood that the parish had intended to asphalt. In fact, they did. It was part of the parish plan to overlay Rip Duplessis Road, because it was listed as a parish road.
And when was this taking place?
When did that take place?
The dates?
Let me guess, 4 or 5 years ago, and I think you can verify that. So
And I said about 2001. It might have been 2002, but 4 years or so ago.
with that in mind, rather than blacktop a quarter of a mile of road along the runway, we had simply intended to connect to the end of Rip Duplessis and use that as our entrance. At that time, some of the residents along Rip Duplessis objected to the parish and convinced the parish that, in fact, it was initially established as a private servitude. There was some discussion about whether the parish had acquired a public servitude by maintenance, because the parish had maintained it for several years. There were some attempts on my part to establish that, in fact, it had, and I think the parish attorney agreed with me that, in fact, the parish had probably acquired a public servitude of passage. In spite of that, the parish decided not to overlay it, and at that point we made a decision not to continue to stir the pot and create animosity with the people who live down the road, and simply to undergo the additional expense of asphalting, in effect, a third of a mile of useless road on our own property just to make the peace. So we did that. When we came before the Planning Commission to get approval of our Cessna Street gated community, one of the requirements of the Planning Commission was that we, on our own property, put a gate where our private road met the Rip Duplessis Road. So what we did was, when we asphalted our street, we stopped the hard surface before it touched the Rip Duplessis, now private servitude. And we put, at our own expense, we put our own gate there and put our own lock on it at our own expense at the parish's request. We do not use Rip Duplessis Road. Before we installed the gate, And because we had run our trucks on it, we used our own equipment to help rebuild that road because it was in deplorable condition. One of the residents on that road, who lives at the very end of it, right adjacent to our property, is a friend of ours. His children play with my grandchildren right there. And he uses our road, with our permission, to get to his property, opens the gate, and then goes on to his property. And he does that with our permission. We do not use Rip Duplessis Road and have no intention of ever doing that. We acknowledge to the world that it's private property, and we don't use it, and have no intention of ever doing so.
Okay.
And that's that.
Okay, well, I mean, when I looked at the property, and
But it
just
is a
seemed
strange-
kind of strange because there has been this question
Yeah, but
about
we
Rip Duplessis Road,
Yeah.
and so I had intended on asking you about
Sure.
that this evening.
It's a strange situation, but we have no dispute with these folks. We acknowledge it's private, and we simply have no dispute with them. And the gate is on our property at the parish's insistence.
Okay.
And I think Mr. Poche had just walked in. I think he had some comments he wanted to make.
Karen, can you show me, put the map, if you got a little layout right there in front of you? Can you show me where that gate is?
Not on the map that we have, but I might have the.
We've got a small
Well,
one.
we can.
Can you use the vicinity?
Let me just show them the vicinity map is on it.
Where's our property? Yeah.
The vicinity would work.
Yeah, just use the vicinity map.
Okay, good, thank you.
Just put it on display
you
there,
got- you
Steve.
got it
The
right
overhead
there.
display. The cool electronic device there.
The blue light. If the guy will,
All right, somebody, how do you turn it on?
he should turn it.
It's on.
There you go.
It would be right here. Okay, with the new project being
Okay, wait, I'm trying to get orientated here.
right here. Okay, the gate is over here.
Where's Rip Duplessis? Point
Rip
out.
Duplessis would be right here,
Okay.
going up to the main highway, which would be right here.
So it blocks.
It blocks the traffic from Rip Duplessis coming on to our road and our traffic from going on to Rip Duplessis Road.
Okay.
And then the new project that you're considering today is over here.
Right. Right. I'm just curious about their question about the road. It sounded like to me that you were tying into them, but if you have the gate to block it, then there's really no access.
If the gate
route.
were open, they could come onto my street and I could go onto theirs.
Right. But you say it's always closed.
It's always closed except when their relative, who lives on the last lot,
Right.
chooses to open it to gain access with his delivery truck. He's a
Okay.
cookie and cake deliveryman, and rather than go on Rip Duplessis, which is an unimproved road, which is sometimes not in very good condition, rather than run his truck up that road to access Highway 429, he uses our road system because it's in better condition. And he does so without permission.
O'Neill, private road to private road. No jurisdiction here, right?
Not our issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Okay. Mr. Poche, we had closed the public hearing, but I'm going to allow you to come on up and you'll get your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be brief. I apologize for being late, members. I think I'm the largest landowner next to this particular development that's proposed in front of y'all tonight. I felt I needed to speak out and let y'all know that the particular development he already has in place has been done well with no problems whatsoever as far as we can tell. I looked at the proposed development, and I personally have no problems with it. In fact, one of the drainage projects that I tried to get in place 5 years ago, and the parish didn't do, it will be partially corrected with this project when they're going to straighten out a ditch that currently the water from myself and I think 7 or 8 other properties has to go through Mr. Joe Primo's property that he's developing right now. It's in front of y'all. Right now, the way the canal is set up, it runs into Francois facing the current. Current's coming down Francois. Consequently, we get backup water from Francois. This will not cure it, but it will alleviate some of the problems. We have discussed this and looked at this very closely with the parish in the past, and they would not, at that time that I was doing, this was about 5 years ago, use the expenditures to go relocate a ditch. I would like to reemphasize that what Mr. Geoffrey has done so far in the development that he has completed seems to be very good neighbors. I appreciate y'all hearing my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is more catered to Michael or O'Neill. On that drainage outfall from the retention pond to Richard D. Alexander's property, it says 60-foot proposed drainage servitude. No issues with the, I mean, is that doesn't exist today, does it?
It does not. Mr. Geoffrion has spoke to Mr. Alexander, who has dedicated that he would work with them. He has also spoke with Modad Utilities, who also said they would have no problem working with him to get a servitude. But then there is also a potential outfall on our site itself. However, like Mr. Poche said, that outfall would be somewhat against the current, so this would be a more direct line to the bayou.
We generally require, when there's off-site servitudes, that they produce documentation of the granted servitude when we approve construction plans, because we don't want to learn during construction that an adjacent owner would not grant the servitude and change the design.
So if this proposed servitude didn't come with construction, then you wouldn't approve construction plans?
That's correct, and if you want to be real safe, you could make that part of your motion.
Well, I've got one last question.
Yes, sir.
Several of these lots fall over a pipeline.
That's correct.
So, I mean, I didn't think we could build on top of pipelines.
We're not going to be building on top of pipelines. We understand that there will be some configuring necessary architectural design to make those lots buildable, but there is no intention to build on top of a pipeline.
Yeah, just what I'm looking. I mean, I can only go by what's being presented to me. And I was just kind of looking at how the pipeline fell out. So I figure I'd go ahead and ask the question anyway. Make sure. Is there and I didn't see a note pertaining to that in the general notes.
We can add that note.
I'd appreciate if it would be added.
Michael had the comment, and I was looking for the note too, but he said it was fine.
I know this came last month and was pulled off. I can't remember if it was last month or this month, but I thought we had
We did
commented, so
remove several lots that were
that's what I thought.
truly unbuildable. We combined some to make lots 38, 39, and 47 larger to provide a better buildable area, but still, again, we will have to do some true design, not just cookie cutter house plans for those lots to make it work. But I have looked at some on the internet and can make them work on this site without, any true improvement. So it can be done.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? There are no comments or questions. What is the wish of the commission?
Based on the fact it meets all of the criteria set forth in our current regulations for subdivision development, I'm going to move that we approve this, and I'm going to put one contingency on it, and it's dealing with the drainage outfall, the 60-foot proposed drainage servitude, that does come into, that servitude is acquired before construction.
The note on the pipeline?
On 47?
The comments. as far
Add
as
the
lots
pipeline
on the
comment.
Pipeline, crossing the pipeline.
Okay, well.
No, we want to add a note.
Oh, okay, on the plat, you said. I'm sorry. Yeah, adding the note on the plat about the pipeline as well.
I'll second that.
I have a motion to approve by Mike, with contingencies, by Mike Bardwell, seconded by Scott Courtwright. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, item 7B, Driftwood Estates. Mr. Boyd Holmes.
How you doing? Boyd Holmes with Boyd Holmes Engineering in Baton Rouge. We are developing a 51-lot residential subdivision fronting LA 74 west of Airline Highway, between Airline Highway and Casey Road or Coontrap Road. It consists of approximately 21 acres. There's going to be 51 lots with a lake in the middle. All the ERA comments were addressed, and we're requesting approval.
Comments or questions for Mr. Holmes from the commission at this time?
Yes, I do. Wetlands determination. You guys went out there, and I see some notes on that. You performed a wetlands investigation. Tell me the status of that.
We have submitted it. In fact, we submitted it the week before we turned this in, and we haven't heard back an official jurisdictional determination.
Question.
Yes.
Not so much for you, Mr. Holmes. Back in October of last year, the commission voted to allow proof of submittal for wetlands determination, not to exceed 6 months, and it was to start at November 1st, and May 1st made the 6 months. So, if I'm not mistaken, anything that was reviewed by our ERA should have included a wetlands determination, not just proof.
At least a submittal of the documentation.
And
We
I actually have an excerpt from the minutes, the official minutes pertaining to that.
I stand defenseless. We did not.
I mean,
we're still operating under the pretense that they just have to show proof of submittal.
I was kind of just waiting to see what was going to happen and how it was going to go about happening.
You just knew I'd ask about wetlands. It all played together.
Like I said, I had this waiting. I want to read it. I'll read it. So we've got a situation here where I'm going to assume that not just Driftwood Estates, but Maplewood Estates, that's the only other one, preliminary, you received no wetlands determination for either one of those.
Well, we're receiving proof that they have a delineation report and are submitting it to the Corps.
But our
not-
ordinances are quite
I
clear.
understand.
And, of course, we want to follow the ordinances. So the 6 months is gone. It's expired.
That's where we are.
I do have a question.
Certainly,
the
Mr. Holmes.
6 month time period was given to see how it worked, and then y'all were going to make a decision.
Well, it was, at the time, here's the issue that we had. We just had hurricanes Katrina and Rita hit, and the Corps had disbanded. They
Right.
dispersed across the
Right.
countryside. And so developers were having a difficult time.
Right.
And to help the developers out, really, to try and show a little,
Mercy.
well,
Grace period. Right.
cooperation, try and help them out. We elected to accept only proof that a wetlands determination request had been submitted. And we did it for a period of 6 months. And like I say, it's started November 1st. And the 6 months was up May 1st. So all the preliminaries, of course, at our last month's meeting fell under that, but as far as of May 1st, anything that our ERA reviewed should have had
A jurisdictional determination letter on the Corps' letterhead, right?
right.
Okay. One thing is, I don't know how
And
much
I mean,
the Corps has gained their staff back to be able to turn it over. So.
They have considerably since we made that November 1st. I just got one done, and
Unless you're going by the submittal date that they're submitting to us.
What do you mean?
Well, these were submitted back in May. Right? The deadline, this deadline for this meeting was 5 weeks ago. So did the motion clarify?
It just it stipulates not to exceed 6 months.
Well, the submittal date for this meeting was within the 6 months. I'm not saying that makes it right or not. I'm just pointing that out. At the point in time these were submitted, you were still within the 6 months.
Then I guess I should defer to legal counsel if that would pass muster. I'm
If the submittal date is in the 6 month period, then I think we should continue to act as we did in that 6 month period, because we couldn't say today.
well,
That's why I would remember the submittal date, if they were required to submit before that 6 month period is up, then they're still lucky. Next month they won't be, it's 6 months since then, but I think they're still lucky.
well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, right now, any submittals you receive should have, and if they've submitted, and there's no wetlands determination, then I don't see much use in you even reviewing it without that, because that is required in our ordinances.
That
Now,
that is what we were doing.
Of course,
Prior to that
right.
change.
You know, if legal counsel is comfortable with the fact that the date does fall within the 6 month period, then we can go ahead and proceed.
I think it would only be fair, because within that 6 month period, they have submitted, while that 6 month period was extended. I think that would be what I was told to get for the next 6 months, and so that's what it applies.
Mhm.
If we don't let them submit, they're late, we don't accept it before the meeting, so we put them in the jam there.
I just want some direction for next month.
I thought I pretty much gave it when I said if you
Well, no, I mean,
any
if the
submittals you
commission
receive
is-
right now, if they don't have a wetlands determination, there's no use in you even reviewing.
So the
anything.
commission is not going to consider extending this then?
I really don't see any reason to do it. Personally, I thought it was you know I felt we exhibited a fair amount of goodwill when we did it for the 6 months, and it was it was a situation where it was due to the fact that the Corps had to relocate and had to kind of get themselves straightened out in order to do this. And from what I understand, I haven't heard anything to to discredit it. The Corps has done that, so I don't really see where the issue is. As far as I'm concerned, we did our part. It kind of goes back to one of the things, everybody wants the commission to cooperate with them, but strange, when we want somebody to cooperate with us, we can't seem to get it too much. So I feel like the 6 month period has done what it was supposed to do. And like I said, I mean, we can go ahead and proceed, and we'll review this. We'll review both of these preliminaries tonight. But like I say, anything else that you're getting right now, there better be a wetlands determination with it. Okay. Would you like us to have that in the minutes to make, you know?
No,
But we cover, I mean, we
you're-
go ahead and do it, and it'll be
No,
covered, and it's
you're,
official.
if that's what the motion said 6 months ago, and you take no action, you don't have to do anything. If that was a temporary basis. Charles, correct me if I'm wrong. But
If you want, here you go.
no, I trust you.
I wouldn't lie to you.
My memory was that it was a year, but you're probably right.
There was some argument about a year. There was discussion. I say argument. There was some discussion about a year, and we at the time we felt the 6 months was adequate. And if it was needs be, then we would extend it another 6 months. But I say I don't see the need to do it. We can proceed. We'll review, or we'll handle these items of business just as if there was, you know, with the.
All right, I do have a couple more questions, if you don't mind moving on. Flood information, it says that you have on your notes here on your plat, FEMA maps from 1981. You guys have checked new flood maps.
And
new
it
FEMA
drops
maps.
4 feet.
Okay, but is that reflected, the new stuff's reflected in here? This is just an old date?
No, the new flood maps, it's supposed to drop 4 feet. So there's nothing going to be in the flood zone, which is very strange to me. You know, a 4-foot change, but I brought that up to C.J. Godin. He sent an email to the Corps. The Corps came back saying it is what it is.
So we're looking at where it says on your legend, area below base flood elevation of 13.0 from survey. Is that reflective of the footnote that says September 2nd, 1981 FEMA base flood elevation?
Yes.
Or is that reflective of the brand new FEMA maps? That
No,
are-
that's based on the existing FEMA maps in place today, the 1981.
Okay.
Let me make a comment on that. Until those maps are approved today, these are the maps that we have to rely on.
Correct, 81. Yeah, I don't
Right.
know where those are at as far as final approval.
You may not have caught it in the previous application. We had pointed out that the flood elevation was getting a foot higher, and the engineer acknowledged that, you know, if those maps are approved, then they would, you know, comply with that. So we are checking. We have the new maps. We are checking in the cases where it goes up.
Okay.
We do make the point, but legally we can't do much more than suggest or ask. Right.
Yeah, I didn't know. I guess I should have started off with, have they been adopted? Where are we at with that? Do you know?
I don't think you can even look at them being adopted this year.
Right.
But generally, the
So-
developers are going to comply because, you know, if it goes up and they've got their building pads a foot below that, they're going to be
Yeah.
in trouble.
We've looked at both maps to make sure that we've covered ourselves.
So you are taking both maps into account.
Right.
Which I
Well, I
find
mean, we
is-
have to do what's in place today.
He's hoping that
I mean,
it's
it's-
going to approve, it drops 4 feet.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a matter of realistically what's the elevation. You know, I don't know, 4 feet. So.
Right.
My last comment is there's a beautiful live oak tree right on the front of the property at track D&E. I know it's not on you, but the Lance property right on the corner. Huge live oak tree right there. It's just adjacent, but when you guys are building or putting in fences or whatever, it's just a suggestion to that tree is absolutely
Right.
unbelievable
Yeah.
piece of
It's got a canopy that
historic.
touches the ground.
Huge canopy that probably goes onto your property. So.
Right. No, I mean, there's really no reason to do anything in that area.
Boyd, I've got a question for you because I
Yes.
see there's a note on here about with the Boran Equipment LLC.
Yes.
And it says existing light industrial use to remain. Now, is that up to the development line, or is there going to be some kind of buffer for that?
When you say up to the development.
Well, I mean, you've got lots 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15 bordering this area where you've got light
Okay, you see-
industrial uses. I mean, is that
Those existing buildings are going to remain there.
okay? So the buildings would remain,
Right. And what's being done there right now will remain.
So they
So
will
the-
continue operations
Yes.
there?
Right.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Well, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on this property, please come up, sign in, and you'll get your time to speak to the commission.
Already signed.
Sign. Would you please state your name, sir?
My name is Joey Ray, and I live directly behind on Hanson Road. And Commissioner, I just for all of you, we've never seen a layout, a plan, a plot. We've never spoken to the Moran developers or to Mr. Boyd here. I would just like the opportunity to sit down and look at what they have and discuss it with them. I think they owe us to let us know what they have planned at least. And that is my big concern, to find out. I'm a little curious how they're going to fit 51 lots on something that's 226.85 wide and a lake. So I'm a little curious how this is going to lay out and how it's going to affect as far as what kind of drainage and sewer we're looking at. Like I said, it's just something I would love to sit down with them and discuss before y'all give any approval or discuss it very much further.
Okay. I can't make you, I mean, I'm sure we got to have another copy of the plat that you can review. But I mean, tonight the commission is pretty much going to act one way or another on this. And if at all possible, sir, could you go ahead and review it? If there's someone else that would like to speak, I'd like to go ahead and give them the opportunity while you're doing that.
Yeah, how you doing? Todd Gotro. I live at the end of Hanson Road. My property is the last property on the end. Y'all talk about flood. Are they gonna? I don't know if they're gonna build up any lots. I mean, there's two huge ditches. One runs behind. Both ditches cross my property. One behind my house and one at the end of the road. And with Hurricane Rita, they flooded tremendously. I mean, it might not be in a flood zone. The next day, the water will be gone. But that water, it's the same ditch that ties in behind Snows, and you see what happens behind Snows when it rains. Well, it floods like that all the way back through. And it might not be in a flood zone, but when you get heavy rain, both them ditches do back up. It'll be gone in 2-3 hours, but if they do any building up, that's just going to make that problem a whole lot worse. Because for Rita, I got a shed in the back, and my lawnmowers went underwater, and I got water higher for Rita than I've ever gotten. I've lived back there 12 years. That's the highest the water's ever gotten in ditches, and it was a lot of water. But anyway, I got a few other questions. There was a controversial going on about the development on 621. Am I going to get a list of residents that's going to be moving into this area?
We don't know.
I heard
who's
council
gonna move
members
in.
and I heard residents at the meeting say that they were owed a list of residents that was going to move into that subdivision, that was their right to have. I don't want it, but I'm just wondering if that is a requirement by the council or this commission. No.
Are you referring to the FEMA trailer
Yeah.
park? This
Yeah.
isn't a FEMA
I
trailer
know.
park.
I know, but it's a private development, just like that one was. But council members and other people got up on at meetings and suggested that they needed a list of residents, that they were owed a list of residents, background checks, and whole shooting match. And was there a traffic study done? Was there a sewer study done? Was there a school impact study done? Was any of these studies done for this development?
We require a traffic impact study and a drainage impact study, but we do not
No
require.
sewer, no school.
Our ordinances do not cover a school impact
So
study.
there are no ordinances that cover all that. So all that stuff that was suggested by councilmen in the FEMA private development on 621, that's non-existent, correct?
That's correct.
No, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Tim Terrio.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I got just a couple of questions I'd like to ask. I guess first off, I was concerned just to see if there had been an impact study or an environmental study conducted on the property and submitted yet. And y'all kind of touched bases a little bit on the south side of the property. I was curious to see if the development was going to increase the elevation of the property in the flooded portions. And if I may, I'd like to offer a suggestion to you. My wife went this evening and picked up a map of the proposal that I have, and I got a chance to see it for a few minutes right before the meeting. Fortunately, last month I had an opportunity to meet with one of the developers at the property. Just coincidentally, we met and we got to discussing it, and I like the idea about a neighborhood coming into being right there and everything. I like some of his ideas that he has, but I still had some questions about the drainage and that kind of stuff. If you would include what we picked up, the map and the mail out, instead of just saying we're going to have a public hearing to affected adjacent property owners, if we could include this, it would probably help cut down some of the questions and confusion when some of the neighbors come up here to try to, see what's going on. So if y'all would consider that, I think it'd be helpful to the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Gerald Blair.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have 2 points I want to make, or comments I want to clarify. First is, I own the property. My son Jason and I are next to the entrance ramp coming in on 74. 20 plus years ago, Industrial Pipe Company owned that section that they own, that they building the subdivision on there. They stored equipment from these plants, contaminated tanks, exchangers, reboilers, you name it, from a chemical plant was stored on that 8 acre section, especially where they're going to dig their pond and the homes towards 74. And it was deemed contaminated back 20 plus years ago, and they hauled some of the equipment off, but they dug holes and buried a whole lot of it. And they used to clean pipes, the insulation and everything, with asbestos and all. They buried it on site, most of it. And I observed this. So I have an environmental question about when they start digging this pond up and stirring all these chemicals up that leached in the ground. Because, they used to smoke back there. The chemicals, you could smell them coming off the ground and everything, smoke, the acid and everything. And the next thing is the drainage I'm concerned about. From Highway 74, it drains across their property. Nothing drains towards Highway 74. There's a ditch adjacent from Mr. Shake Snyder's place. It runs through his place, Mr. Roy's place, and through my place, and goes back to where Mr. Gotro and them live. Everything drains back from Highway 74 to this ditch. It's probably a 4 to 6 inch grade from there. And I'm just concerned if they start building it up, that we'll be in a bowl and potentially get flooded out. I think he said they may be going to put a 24 inch pipeline to take care of this, but I'm just worried about it because there's the section I'm in. There's 5 older homes. There's 6 homes that drain sewage in this ditch, so it gets pretty raunchy at times. And it's going to run, and I think it's going to run into their pond, their proposed retention pond that they're talking about. And plus Mr. Ray and Mr. Gotro and them sewage probably runs in that same ditch that goes on back and runs towards back of Snow's Seafood. And that's why my comment was just to address the environmental study, impact when they're going to start digging this up, and the drainage. I don't want to be sacrificed. For 51 homes, I don't want the homes that are already there to be sacrificed and flood eventually. And DPW has to pick it up later on and try to do something about it. So I just, make sure y'all address that when y'all look at it. Thank y'all.
Thank you. That's it. Boyd, you got your time for rebuttal.
Okay. The recommendation about sending out the plats, either that or maybe put it on the website with a link would be probably great that everybody can actually see it, because I was thinking these were actually mailed out. Okay, the questions. Okay, the last one about the drainage coming from 74, draining through the subdivision. In our drainage impact study, we accounted for that. The question now that I have about sewer being discharged into the back there's no servitudes for that. I guess that's sewer to be draining across the property as is. So I'm kind of questioning, why is the sewer being discharged into a ditch coming across the property? If anything, the sewer could be tied in and discharged to the front. But I mean, drainage-wise, we've accounted for all the drainage coming from their property through our property to the lateral of Bayou Northeast. I don't remember what other issues.
Boyd, could
Yes.
you elaborate on the drainage? As I'm looking at it, it's coming across the subdivision. Can you put it under there and show me what you're going to, are you redirecting it around the subdivision?
The way he just explained to me that he's redirecting it, my sewer goes into that ditch, and if he does away with that ditch.
Okay. The drainage, this part right here drains to Bayou. We've accounted for this area draining through our pond and into this. And the area that drains over here comes down to this culvert here, and then what comes over here drains directly into the back pit. The last comment about the sewer part, it says that these houses are actually discharging sewer this way, but there's no servitudes across the property, and there's no ditch right here for that to go through. And there is a ditch that comes in here.
Yeah, what's
Stops
becoming of
right
that
there, but
ditch?
there's no servitude on that.
What's going to become of that? What's going to become of that ditch?
Okay, this is going to be filled in. This ditch is going to be only whatever, I guess, drains from here. And that's what he was saying, is this is his property.
Okay, when you say filled in, that concerns me.
But this drains this piece right here. We're going to go through, we'll take all the water from the development and route it through the lake, discharge it into the bayou.
So that area that's shaded, where is it? How you going to capture it on the streets
Pipe, yeah.
and come back through?
Curb and gutter, so we're going to pipe it and then discharge it into the lake.
Okay. Now, what about the one that, same thing with the one that's coming in from the, I guess it's north?
So this is going to be open ditch all the way down through.
All right, to the left of that, you've got the other little ditch, that's going to be captured,
This right here.
right.
24-inch culvert catches a little bit of land here, and we'll catch it and pipe it into that ditch.
Okay, and then go back to his sewer problem. If he's dumping effluent into that ditch,
Well, my concern is we need to find out where those sewer
Okay.
tail lines are. I mean, there's
Okay.
an option of tying these lines in and then bringing it directly to the bayou here, or tying it into the sewer system.
hey, I like, that's what I, okay, that's better.
There's a number of ways to do it. It's just a matter of identifying
Okay.
and how to do it.
This is a parish maintained ditch. The parish has been maintaining it for 20-plus years. It comes from the car wash over here on 74, and it runs along here, and it's on our property line. It's on our property, it's on there, and it runs here, and and all these homes, older homes, they all discharge the sewage to the back because the road ditch on 74 doesn't flow. It doesn't have any water in it. It all flows to the back, so all the sewage drains to the back. So if they go to blocking this up, then we just gonna have a stagnant sewage ditch. And I mean, right now, without any rain, it's pretty raunchy when, and if they go backing it up, it's gonna be just a pond.
And I think, show him what you're going to do, Boyd. Go explain it as he's looking at it.
Okay. We can catch this water and drain it to here. If there's sewer tail lines discharging here, we have a pump station, we can tie these things in and tie it into the sewer system. I would rather see that than go through the lake.
Would that be the same for us on Hanson, just put a cut back?
Well, in Hanson, you've just discharged directly into the bayou.
No, they discharge in
When
the
you
same
start in the
ditch.
ditch, you're gonna do
Right
away
here,
with
it goes
Well,
right through your property.
Yeah, but if anything, then they'd be discharging over here, because they're not coming across this property. This ditch comes around right here.
Yeah, I think they discharge in here.
This residence discharges into behind my house, it doesn't tie in, but it's just an open ditch, and then I tie in, I come to
This way, then turns and goes back down.
Right now, it doesn't shine.
Yeah, there is servitude on it.
I have no idea.
I'm sorry, what?
Excuse me, there is servitude on the ditch, and Parish uses our road to get back there. They just cut it 2 weeks ago. It's been, because I tried to get the ditch put on the property line because it bows into I'm on the end, it bows into my property. And they said it's a natural drainage ditch, you can't do away with it. They told me they got servitude, they cut it the whole. So I mean, and my sewage does go into that ditch too.
Our maps, none of them show the servitude, but we can go through and cut the ditch directly straight down back.
That, to me, that would be the solution. Put the ditch on that property line and just make it go straight on out to the ditch that comes in behind Snow.
Okay.
Boy, it sounds like y'all are willing to work with the residents and take some of that and work that out.
If we can take the sewer tail lines, pipe it, and then route it here, or if you tie it into the sewer system.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Y'all go ahead and work it out.
Okay.
And get with Michael. And if he's okay with it, I mean, doesn't that seem like the best route to take for this?
Right.
Because I mean, it sounds like y'all are willing to work with the residents, and I
I
don't
mean,
think we
it's
can
easily
ask for too
workable
much
thing.
more than that.
Right.
Is that fair enough? Michael, you got a question?
Yeah, Mr. Rue, you had stated a month or two ago that y'all were going to be looking, DPW was going to be looking at these plats along with Michael Sanji. Has this started occurring yet? Have y'all had input into this?
I'm sure we had some type. Michael have to can tell you more if he met with CJ, particularly on this on these issues. But no, we are reviewing it more closely now.
I just
the
didn't
last
know
few
when it
weeks.
was started, how far back.
Right. The issue of the ditch, again, I think you're right. That can be worked out. It is going to be a requirement of the drainage board that any natural drainage has to be, if it's going to be redirected, got to come to the drainage board for approval. So that is a natural drainage, but we have no problem working with them, making sure that everybody's satisfied.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners?
There's a question about environmental concerns or environmental studies. Just a general comment. When properties are sold in Louisiana, there's a process that the bank requires the property owner to go through in this transaction process between the owner and the buyer. It's called a Phase 1 environmental site assessment. And if there's someone goes out there, an environmental consultant would go out there, take a look at the property, they make a discovery. If they make a discovery, two things can happen. No discovery, it's closed out. Report submitted, everything's good, the bank sale goes through. If there is a discovery, it goes to a Phase 2. Phase 2 is real descriptive. It says what kind of contaminants, where are they at, give us a specific location, give me the impact. Is it surface, groundwater, what's going on? From a Phase 2, it can go into a Phase 3. Lots of money, lots of time. Basically, they're telling you to clean up the property. Here's what you got. And then once those things are done, they can put a constituent or binding on that before the property can be in transaction. So environmental site assessment for the property takes, a bank jumps into it, they have to do an ESA. So somebody had some concerns about it being dirty out there or contaminants or whatever the case may be. Those things I would assume would have been addressed in a bank sale situation of property. That's traditionally how it is addressed or taken care of.
Do you know if that has taken place, Bob?
I know some environmental work was done on it. To what extent, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I mean, if there's a concern, digging a lake where some buried contaminants are, I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, let me tell you, an ESA, if they find a tire on a piece of property, and the environmental consultant finds a tire or a battery or a paint can, they will take that, and that's contaminated property. It doesn't have to be some huge chemical buried cleanup site, if it just be a paint can, that's a concern, environmental concern. So as small as that, because it could have lead or asbestos or whatever the case may be. So that was lagniappe. Not charging for that.
You didn't?
No, it's free.
Barely in the time.
Sorry.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Terrio, we've closed the public hearing, but I know you and I have talked before about. I'm familiar with this piece of property, so I kind of have an idea of what you're going to say. Right. No, I mean I was going to really ask you the same question, Boyd. It kind of goes back once again. We've got a piece of property that had a light industrial use.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is now going for a residential use.
Right.
So I mean, I was going to put the same question to you, if an environmental study had been done, or if you had any information about that.
I know an environmental consultant has done some work on it. I just don't know to what extent.
Okay. Last call. Any questions or comments from the commission? What's the wish of the commission?
I make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Steve Barrow.
And I'll second it with the conditions that you work with the local, the adjacent property owners to work out any drainage concerns, check into the environmental concerns, and also the sewer effluent.
Okay,
Is that good, Michael?
I would think I would need more specificity on the environmental. Are you telling me I need to see a report before I approve the plans?
What do you want? 1, 2, or just a? I'll defer to.
Well, you'd like to see if there's been an ESA done, environmental site assessment done. If there's been, what are the findings for the environmental? Obviously, these people have concerns because it was a light industrial. We need to address that some sort of way. Has it been done? Where's it at in the process? Not. So that's what I was saying.
Okay.
I would prefer that you go ahead and state a phase 1 ESA, so I have some standard to ask them to do, or that they know what they have to submit to us.
Okay. Phase 1 ESA.
Okay, I have a motion to approve and a second with contingencies.
Yeah.
Any objections or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, item 7C, Maplewood Estates. Mr. Bro.
Yes, sir. My name is Greg Bro. I'm with Sigma Consulting Group. We are here requesting preliminary approval of Maplewood Estates subdivision. This is a proposed development of a 50-acre site that's located on the south side of Oakland Drive, just east of Highway 73, Jefferson Highway. We're proposing 112 residential lots, which vary in width from 77 to 85 feet, which meets with the current RM zoning requirements. We're proposing 3 detention ponds to mitigate the increased runoff from the development as far as stormwater. We have, I think, 4 or 5 common areas in this site totaling 12.25 acres, 2 of which are for detention ponds, which takes up most of that area, but there's also an 8-acre site towards the rear and a couple of landscaping common areas at the entrance. but the 12.25 acres constitutes almost 25% of the land of this development. We have submitted drainage and traffic impact studies to CSRS, who have reviewed them, and to my knowledge, we've answered any concerns they have. They all comply with the requirements. There were two comments or considerations they had on their final review of this preliminary plat. One regarding on the south boundary of our site, there's an existing lateral of Welsh Gully that our plans anticipate improving that channel, and they questioned whether we should improve it to the degree that we had proposed. We're more than willing to work with CSRS to reduce our improvement to whatever state they want us to develop that to. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what their comment was, because we plan on widening the canal channel bottom to a 20-foot width, which would have reduced the upstream water surface considerably, approximately 3 feet. But we are more than willing to reduce that 20 feet back down to some other number, whatever CSRS decides. We're more than willing to work with that. There was one other comment regarding 15-foot servitudes around the eastern and western boundaries that were inadvertently omitted on our plat. They have been added now, and I actually have the revised plats to give to Charles before we leave tonight. But so we've addressed those two considerations they have, and I or the developers here, if y'all have any questions, we'll be glad to try to answer them.
Comments or questions from commissioners? Okay, at this time, then I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing.
Scott Schroe.
My name is Scott Schroll. I live right on the corner of Jefferson Highway, Old Jefferson and Hope Villa. A couple of things I wanted to bring up on behalf of the people in the Hope Villa subdivision. One is that area is a pretty area. Y'all are probably familiar when y'all come across the bridge at Bayou Manchac. It's one of the first areas you see. It's got a lot of live oaks. We probably have the same concerns as the Driftwood subdivision. We'd like to have those live oaks stick around. Hopefully they can build around those and some of the larger trees. So if y'all could have a contingency to leave the live oaks, we'd appreciate it. We too have not seen the layout or seen any kind of building restrictions on this area, so we're concerned with that as well. Hopefully keep the land values up. But the reason you got the map there was the drainage concern. As you can tell by, I'll put it right here. Not sure if y'all can see this. But on the south side of Hope Villa Drive, all that effluent runs west and then crosses northward under Hope Villa Drive. And right there at the corner right there where the pond is in the ditch, kind of stays low there. It collects. And in fact, I had mosquito control come out there. And also, as you can tell, as you go east, back on the north side of Hope Villa, it crosses in between two houses and goes north. And where you see the arrows fan out, that's where they're proposing this subdivision be built, as far as I know. And if they do build there, we'd like them to consider the problems it's going to have with the effluent on our sewage. Okay, it'll probably increase the effluent that stays in our ditch on the north side of Hope Villa Drive. It's not too bad now since it can run and dissipate into the woods, but if it backs up into the ditch, we're going to have a problem. And I think that's all I had to say. We would appreciate it, though, if we could get a plot from Mr. Bro at a later date, hopefully tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Randy Hughes.
I'm Randy Hughes. I live right next door to Scott. So this drainage runs right in between our properties. This has never been developed as far as I know, as far as this drainage is concerned. Initially, there used to be a drain, or actually an open ditch that ran just to the side of the pond. And when his house was built, of course, it was previous owner built it, he diverted that to a 24-inch pipeline that runs under his property and out to the backside. That ditch has never been opened by anybody, and it's just dissipated out into the field. So my big concern is, where does it actually go? And where do they plan to put that drainage?
Could you tell me what two lots you're talking about? that go
Okay.
between-
Okay.
2A and 3. Yeah.
It's between 2 and 3.
Okay.
Okay, it runs right here.
Yes. We have plans to pick that water up with a pipe subsurface system through our subdivision.
Okay. Now, the other concern I have is on the backside of
Sir,
the
would
lots.
you make your
Pardon me.
comments to the commission, please?
The other concern I have is on the backside of lots. It's basically 2, 3, 4, and 5. The back of these subdivisions, these lots are more turtle back, and the water flows off the backside of the property and eventually goes in a little servitude or a little ditch that ties into that same canal. You know, so where is this water going to go at that point?
We also have plans for swale ditches at the rear of the lots that drain the water to that pipe system.
Right, that would be on the backside of our property.
Well, it's actually on our property, but
Mhm.
it's common.
Okay.
Rear property.
And that's where the servitude.
Right, it would be off of our property, but we'd construct a ditch there that would pick up the water off of your lot and the back of our lot.
Okay. Well, that was my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's it. Okay. Greg, you can come on back up. That's it as far as public hearings closed now. Go ahead and. You want to get in as legal counsel or as
It's kind of in between. I live in the back, but Oakland Drive is not straight like that at all. There's a horrible curve there right where you're going to have your entrance. Where you have coming in.
Would you please make your comments to the commission, Mr. Perrin?
We have a
State your name.
curve, we actually, that was one of CSR's comments, there is a curve there, and we did come back and add that curve, and it falls right at the back of our property.
No, the curve here in front. There's a horrible curve in front. Pulling off Oakland Drive, right where the horses are. That's not shown on there, and that's where the entrance to the subdivision, and that's a safety issue that I have from that, as a legal advisor to the board. It's not showing on there, and that's, when you pull in, it's a horrible curve. And I drive there every day, so.
Well, I'm not disputing what you say, but we actually surveyed the street here, and we got it off the aerial photographs. It must be an isolated little.
When you come in, there's all these horses on the side, and there's a sharp little veer to the right, where you can't see it, now you can't see.
Neil, could you go ahead and speak into the microphone? They can't hear you.
State your name, please.
I'm just speaking as a legal advisor, as a safety issue. Right when you come into the subdivision, right when you turn on Oakland Drive, there's that sharp little curve.
Are you sure it's not this curve here? Because I think we'd have noticed that.
Okay.
I think it's this curve right
Okay,
here.
that's fine.
Which is past our property.
Okay. As long as it's just addressed in, I'm not.
Yeah, we had commented on it.
I I would like to address the comment that somebody had about the live oak trees. Actually, the developer has already asked that before we get started, we're going to try to daylight this thing and locate some of the better trees and try to save them as part of this project.
Okay. Comments or questions from commissioners?
I know, I know that y'all's traffic study didn't come out and require any turn lane, like a right turn lane into it, being it's so close to Old Jefferson Highway. Is that something y'all would consider?
Well, the traffic study analyzed the proposed intersection of our street onto Oakland. It analyzed Oakland Drive at Jefferson, and then there was one other intersection further down that it analyzed. And this development did not lower the level of service of any of those intersections. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the level of service of that intersection was A, which is as good as it gets. You know, Michael, do you have your comments right there?
It's A in the AM and C in the PM, but it did remain the same. The post-development condition did not change.
So, I mean, there was no, we haven't discussed requiring or installing one since the traffic study didn't indicate the need for one.
Would you or the developer consider easement?
I'm sorry?
Given the parish easement.
Well, we are going to have a 20-foot common area along all of our frontage along Oakland Drive. If at some point in the future there was additional right-of-way required, it would be there to be acquired. I don't know that they would want to dedicate it right now, but there will be a common area that would be available. If you notice, the lots don't actually go up to the Oakland Drive right-of-way.
Yeah, I'm done for now.
Any other comments or questions?
On lot 112, it fronts what?
Well, it's got frontage on both,
Okay.
but actually with the common area the way it is, it's going to have to access Jefferson Highway.
Nobody lives there now, obviously. No.
I don't. No, sir.
Normally, as you know, in the past, the commission hasn't allowed that as far as any lots fronting on to, and you've got as far as you note for lot number 1 and 111. I mean, I understand your situation.
There's just not a whole lot we could do.
Why not let it access Oakland Drive?
Well, I was just thinking if that is an issue, we could restrict the access to Oakland Drive and put a break in that common area for access for that lot. And I would tend to agree that'd probably be a better situation.
And I'd prefer to see it restricted to the back of that lot to keep it as far away from the intersection as you could.
All right. That's not a problem.
I didn't know what they were doing with the common area, but
It's basically just landscape.
yeah, the 15-foot wide driveway wouldn't.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? What's the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion that we approve based on the fact that it meets all the criteria of the subdivision regulations as they are today. We've asked the developer for right turn lane. We asked the developer for easement, neither of which were granted. So I move we approve. Oh, 112, yes, on to the back of that lot and on Oakland. Access to it.
I have a motion to approve. We call that with a contingency?
On lot 112.
Well, dealing with lot 112.
Second.
By Mike Bardwell, and I have a second by Steve Barrow. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Item 8A, Johnson's Ridge subdivision. This is a final approval.
Yes, I'm Larry Pissell with Larry Pissell Engineers. This is a 15-acre, 14.75 acre development on the corner of Tillotson and Parker. We're requesting final approval. We have completed all the punch list items. We have submitted the plat for review. They made comments. We've addressed all the comments. One thing that was brought up, I had the when we got our comments back from the final plat, there was a little damage to the end of the Dale Drive, the curb, and a little bit of asphalt. That has since been corrected. That was about a week ago. The contractor came in and got that corrected. I don't know if Mike had a chance to look at it yet. And so as far as we know, we have completed every item that was requested of us.
Comments or questions from the commissioner?
When you say everything's been taken care of, the additional ERA comments about the T-turnaround?
Yes, that has been done.
Right. All
Yes,
that's
sir.
been addressed?
That has been addressed.
One other thing, there's a bridge, an old wooden bridge that comes across that Muddy Creek right there.
Okay.
It accesses right close to where your sewer treatment plant is.
Correct.
Do you know right offhand, is that a parish? Is that something that is given right away to the property right there? I'm just trying to get a feel for it. The bridge is in bad shape as it is, and I'm trying to understand who's.
I don't know who owns that bridge. It's not on this particular piece of property. It's adjacent
So nothing,
to it.
okay. Oh, it does hit adjacent?
It's on the adjacent property.
Okay. It must be right close.
Very close.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's all.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, then at this time, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to come up and speak, come sign up and you'll get your 3 minutes.
My name's Melissa Shaw, and I live in the area. I know I'm familiar to y'all. I usually come and speak against developments going up because they're not responsible. I'm here on my own agenda, and I just want to say that Mr. Larry Piciola should be given final approval. He made lots of concessions. He met with neighbors. This is several years old, but he did what he could to cause the least amount of impact. It is a nice development. It is nothing like Helena Place that's going up that has now built up 3 foot. Mr. Piciola did not build up that much. He has perfect retention pond. The area is much nicer since he came in. And so I just ask that you give him final approval. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else? You have any other comments, Ms. Yola? Comments, questions from the commission? What's the wish of the commission?
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion by Steve Barrow to approve.
Second.
Second by Scott Courtwright. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Item 9A, Diaz Campsites. It's a right-of-way revocation.
Good evening, Lanny Pino. I purchased lots 11, 12, and 13 probably about a year ago, and my sister owns lots 14 and 15. And after doing the survey, we found that the dark gray area was actually a right-of-way where the road was proposed to be when DS campsite was developed some 30 years ago. And the actual road is below as it's shown, and the road's been there for some 30 years, and I'm asking to see about having the right-of-way revocated.
Comments, questions from the commission? If there are no comments or questions, then I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on this item. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on this issue, please come up and sign in your name. No one wishing to speak. Last call. Comments, questions from the commission? What's the wish of the commission?
I make a motion to approve based upon DPW and staff comments.
Second that.
I have a motion to approve by Steve Barrow and a second by Scott Courtwright. Any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Item 10, public meeting, consider the following simple division of property with a variance. 10A, Saul Hannah property, lots B-4-A-1-A through B-4-A-1-E.
Ellen Jackson with McLean and Associates. This is being subdivided to be given to children. It was not brought forth as a family partition simply because the property is under a corporation name, so that we did it as a simple division. These are existing servitude of passages. Nothing was created. It's just this is the only access to the property, so therefore we need to ask for. And there weren't any comments. Asking for your approval.
Comments, questions from the commission?
What exactly is this plat? I'm finding it a little difficult to see exactly what road is fronting. Is it the lot?
It's fronting Kelly Drive, which is an existing servitude of passage, and also Teepo Lane, which is a servitude of passage also.
Okay, but it comes way into the property.
It does. It's been there for.
Okay.
That's just the way it's been.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Then if there are no other questions or comments from commissioners, what's the wish of the commission?
A motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Ms. Paige Becknell.
Second.
Second by Mr. Scott Courtwright. Is there any objection or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 11, public meeting to consider accepting the following private road into the parish maintenance system. 11A Airport Industrial Boulevard. Mr. Marshall, you representing this road?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and the members. My name is also Michael Marchand. I'm the other guy. I no longer get calls for you, by the way. Thank you. Must be doing a good job.
It's a club. Actually, there's about 4 of us in Ascension Parish, just for everybody's information.
That's kind of strange.
Well, for I guess 4 years or so, I was here talking about subdivisions and the opposition of subdivisions in my neighborhood. But tonight I want to ask you to consider in taking in the Airport Industrial Boulevard as a parish road. I'm representing the airport, St. James Airport and Transportation Authority. I'm the airport manager of Louisiana Regional Airport. And the road we're talking about is not a private road per se. It was the road that was built when the airport was constructed with state money. And we've had improvements to that road with federal money from projects we've done at the airport. And we have assistance with that road from the parish already as far as keeping the grass mowed. The Ascension St. James Authority is a non-member commission that's appointed by the governor. And they own and operate the airport, and I'm the contracted airport manager. And as one of our projects 2 years ago, we were able to convince the state and the FAA to overlay a major portion of that road. That road is an extension of Loosemore Road, which is about 2 miles south of Gonzales off of Highway 44. And the road at the end of Loosemore, there's an extension there, a 90-degree turn on the map you see that goes to the airport. That road is used by all of the pilots and their guests who go to the airport. Most of those live in Ascension Parish, and it's certainly a public open road. It's not a private road. It currently is in the best condition it's been in since the airport was built. It's far better than Loosemore Road is right now as far as the condition of the pavement, and that was due to a lot of the work that the airport was able to gain funds for doing. But we feel it's would be very helpful to the airport financially, and we think it's a public entity, and we think it should be part of the parish road system. And I'd like to ask you to consider doing that. It has a very nice right-of-way on both sides. I think, Charles, I think we agreed it's about 30 feet of ditch servitude on each side of the road. It's about 80-foot total right-of-way. And it's well groomed and well maintained, and tractors can get in there and keep it clean. So it really is not going to be much additional impact on the parish than it is currently being maintained. So I'd like to ask you to consider taking that into the parish road system, and that will help us ensure that we'll have a nice, safe way to get to the airport for many years. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Comments or questions from commissioners?
We got one, O'Neill. Just thinking about the district attorney's opinion dealing with homes. I mean, does this qualify? I mean, we can legally go ahead and bring this into the parish?
Yes, because it's attached to a public facility.
Okay. Well, I'm curious, Mickey, is the state, this, like you brought out, this was, the Transportation Authority was created by state, and its commissioners are appointed by the governor.
Correct.
Okay, so the property is owned, as I understand it, by the authority as well.
That's correct.
Is the state still giving any funding to the authority?
No, the state never has. If I could give you a little history.
If you would.
Please. I'd love to. I'd love people to know that we have an airport, number one. But back in the days of Governor Edwards, the state moved to provide $1.2 million to establish an airport somewhere in Ascension Parish or St. James Parish. A lot of local support, local pilots, and the first commission was tasked with the responsibility of finding a place and building an airport, which Due to shortcomings in the money, they actually built a shorter runway than we had planned, 4,000 feet versus a 5,000-foot long runway. And we're kind of a bastard child. We're owned by the state, but the state provides no operating budget whatsoever. The only money that the airport can gain is from renting hangars that were built at airport expense, and also in selling fuel. Every gallon of gas that's sold at the airport gains 15 cents per gallon. So that's the money we have. It's about $90,000 a year, and that we spent, I can tell you as of today, we spend almost exactly that amount of money just in keeping the airport, keeping the grass cut, keeping the lights on, doing whatever maintenance we can. I manage the airport for a mere $10,000 a year, and that's my full-time job at the airport, in opposed to running a business. My company is contracted to manage the airport. So the airport really has no budget for any type of thing. By the grace of the FAA and the Louisiana State DOTD, we had overruns. We had not overruns on the project. The project came well under budget when we filled in some land and paved some parking area 2 years ago. And at that time, I went to them and asked if we could use any of the extra money and put it on Loosemore Road. In fact, we did actually put it part on Loosemore Road and on the Airport Industrial Boulevard. So we have no operating money for the road. I'm hoping to come to the parish sometime soon and present the economic impact that the airport can provide to the to the parish. And we're hoping that the parish does more to help us to succeed. We've been in the black for every year that the airport has been established by very, very close management of the money and operating cost. And this is one additional thing that would help us tremendously.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, pretty much.
At least you know more about the airport, right?
Well, I happened to go to your website, too, and looked around a little bit.
Okay.
And just because when I saw this, I was kind of I knew it was created by the state.
Right.
And so I was kind of curious, as far as coming to the parish, looking to bring it into the parish maintenance system, along with, since it's the Ascension St. James Airport. Is St. James Parish helping out?
If it was in St. James Parish, we'd be talking to them.
Okay.
If I might add, 3 of the members are from Ascension Parish of the commission. That's by law. 3 are from St. James by law, and 3 are at large. So we essentially have, I think, 6 from Ascension Parish, 6 of the 9.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from commission? Can you speak into the microphone, please, Mr. Parrington? I've already got in trouble with Ozzy, so I don't want to get in trouble again. Yes. We're only making a recommendation to the council, Mickey.
I know how it works.
Okay. There are no other questions or comments. What is the wish of the commission?
Make a motion that we accept the road into parish.
I have a motion by Scott Courtwright
I'll second that.
to send a recommendation to the parish council accepting this road into the parish infrastructure, seconded by Mike Bardwell. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, item 13, public hearing to consider amending the subdivision ordinance, section 60.100, hardship regulations governing division of lands among family members, paragraphs A through D. I guess I'll go ahead and start this off. This was the ordinance that you have before you, same that you got last month. It's a recommendation from the subdivision ordinance committee. amending the family partition ordinance. I hope you've all had the opportunity to review it during the past month. So this time I'll go ahead and ask if there's any comments or questions. Y'all liked it that much and understood everything about it? No? So.
Good job.
Okay, well, you don't have any, if there are no comments or questions, let me go ahead and open up the public hearing on this. And we'll go from there. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on this item, please come up and sign in. No one wishing to speak? Well, the public hearing's closed. So again, comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this to go forward to our parish council.
I have a motion by Mike Bardwell to approve sending this to the parish council.
Second.
A second by Steve Barrow. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. I would like to ask staff if they would send a copy of this to the parish president as well. I had a chance to talk with him this week, and he did ask that any recommendations for ordinances that we sent to the council, that we'd also send him a copy of it as well. So if we could do that, I'd appreciate it. Okay, item 13, committee reports. Subdivision Ordinance Committee. Review of proposed amendments to section 20.200, preliminary plats of subdivision ordinance. This is another recommendation from the Subdivision Ordinance Committee, and it pertains to submittals from developers and engineers, but making it in electronic format. This is just up for review. We're not voting on this tonight as far as holding a public hearing or anything, unless you want to make a motion to proceed with a public hearing next month.
Just to give everyone a little update on this, this will help us move forward with some workflow in the ordinances and preliminary plats. Some of this was already in there, but now it's just giving the technology department a little more flexibility as to what type of files they can get in electronic format. It's just moving us more and more into electronic. Somebody had mentioned earlier about getting these plats on the website so they can take a look at them before meetings. This will enable that to happen. In addition, it will enable the plats to go ahead. We can put the plats up on and use the multimedia displays during the meetings. Right now, we don't have the plats in electronic format, so this is just getting us, progressing us more and more into information technology.
You guys discussed how the submittal should take place. Are they going to submit this via VPN website? Are they going to walk in and give a disc? Are they going to?
That's the way I understand it. Yeah.
As if it was VPN, then you just need to, we need to make sure that on this side we can accept.
That's something that we can look at.
Right.
But yeah.
Now there is one little twist to this, and legal counsel and I had a discussion about it Monday afternoon. Was it, O'Neill? Some of the submittals, some of the documentation in the submittals comes from residents, and they may not have the capability of scanning it. So it needs to be, O'Neill, you would be the best one as far as where we need to write it in at, as far as residents should be allowed, they should be, it should be made available to them through the parish. They could bring the hard copy and the parish will scan it and create the electronic file. Did I say that right, O'Neill, pretty much?
What?
Did I cover it?
Why couldn't the surveyor or engineer do that? They're hiring somebody to do a plat.
That's also possible, but at the same time, if they aren't, I mean, because potential, we're not just looking at this for subdivisions and so forth. I mean, but eventually we could be looking at this for zoning issues as well.
Michael, there's nothing that we do that doesn't require a surveyor or an engineer, right?
Before the planning commission, yeah.
For the planning commission, but I still think
It should be part of your deliverable package. From the
it should be.
surveyor to
It
the-
should. The availability should be there.
Well, the technology, you're saying acceptable format as approved by the Parish Technology Department. I don't know whether he's looking for a PDF format or actually an AutoCAD file.
That just leaves it to the discretion. Like today, it's PDF, but that makes it to where we don't have to go back with this ordinance every time electronic media changes. It just gives that the discretion
That's
to the
fine,
technology.
but depending on what he's requiring, the chances of a homeowner being able to do it are pretty slim. I mean, you're pretty well counting on some professional firm to do this for him, which I don't think is an issue at all.
I don't really see it as an issue. But in talking with legal counsel, that was brought up, and at the same time, I really don't have an issue with going ahead and adding something in just to cover it.
I'll do something that's going to be just on small matters. You can't just live in the parish do work. Something like that. Like some of these little, like when they do little hardship letters, they can start emailing packets out. Somebody needs to be able to scan that in for it. That's more what I was talking about. Because they've got it for a family partition or whatever, you got to have a hardship.
Well, this is just dealing with the plats.
Okay, this is just a plat, and there's no problem. We don't need that.
Right.
Well, and at the same time, and I can't speak for all the surveyors, but I think in talking with a couple of the surveyors representatives out there, they are they've kind of worked up a little format as far as a form or something for clients to go ahead and fill out. So I mean, they're going to end up taking it anyway. But I mean, just like you and I had talked about, if a resident did happen to come in and want to submit something on an issue, that would be available to them.
Well, I mean, as simple as you can go to Kinko's and get the thing PDF for $5, as opposed to putting it off on a parish person to do. I mean, it's as easy as that today. I mean, the technology is so readily available. PDFing is everywhere. I don't see it being as an issue.
Well,
I don't think verbiage has to be.
I don't think we should have any leniency on electronic format right now because, that's some of the problems that we've had in the past. We don't have a sufficient planning layer right now, and that's some of the reason that we don't. I don't think we should be lenient on that whatsoever.
Well, I mean, it's up to the commission. Do y'all want to proceed with this as far as a public hearing, in which case you'll have a month to review it?
I'll make a motion to bring this to the next meeting for a public hearing.
I have a motion by Steve Barrow to move forward with a public hearing at our next regularly scheduled meeting.
And I'll second that.
Seconded by Scott Courtright. Is there Any opposition or discussion? Then the motion passes. And since I said that was 13A, so basically that's my, that's pretty much my committee report too. We will be holding our subdivision ordinance committee next Wednesday, 5 o'clock at DPW.
Mr. Chairman, don't you need to put some people on that?
Well, believe it or not, I have actually discussed with Ms. Becknell if she would like to serve on that subcommittee. And I think she's gone ahead and accepted that position. Right now, I think everyone else, with the exception of Mr. Grant, is serving on a subcommittee. And since I'm kind of springing it on him tonight, I want to go ahead and give him some time to think about it too. And we can talk more between the meetings. Once a month is when the subcommittee meets. It's the third Wednesday of the month at 5 o'clock. It's the subdivision ordinance committee. I'll get with you after the meeting. We'll talk more about it. Strategic planning committee.
I don't have much of a report on strategic planning or zoning subcommittee. The strategic planning meeting was moved from its regular date, and we had our zoning subcommittee meeting on that same night. With the exception, Mr. Allen, if you had anything, I know you was able to make the end of it, right?
Yeah, I just participated in the very end of it, mainly to give our report. I don't have anything to report.
Okay. Okay, then, item 14A, new business. I had one item, developer submittals to engineering, which, Michael, this is going to be something that you're going to be able to help us with. I know Mike Bardwell put in a request to y'all as far as some information. How's that coming along, or have you?
As far as the status?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can pass it out right now. This
Okay.
is a request to study the research files to determine preliminary plat to approve. It has been approved, but no construction plans or construction has taken place. And on the second sheet is a listing of those where no activity has occurred since the preliminary plat approval.
So when you say, I mean, you're strictly looking at construction plan submittal, right? That's the trigger for this?
That's correct. And I think the ordinance says 6 months for construction plan and then 2 years for the start of construction. And I think your proposed ordinance is basically asking us to report this back to you on a regular basis at the
Right.
planning commission meeting.
Mhm.
But this is, Charles, I presume you've seen this, or you and Sean have worked together on this.
This is a good document to have as far as getting a status update.
And I think the ordinance allows, even if they're beyond this time, that they can still come back to us and get them reapproved, but I think you do have to give, your commission has to give their consent.
I believe this will help us in the fact that, the parish council is looking at some amendments to the ordinances at this time, new drainage impact study, possibly traffic impact fees, just the different things that have been being worked on.
Flood zone.
Flood zones, for the last 2 years, these things change.
Is this what you want?
I think we as a commission need to decide what type of action to take based on the amount of how long they're out of compliance.
As I recall now, in some respects, the ordinances take care of that for us, don't they? Because, I mean, it's an automatic.
I don't know that it is automatic, totally.
Charles, I thought with some of the.
In that case, we've got 3 on the list right now.
Well, we've had 1 or 2 instances, let me just say this, 1 or 2 instances in the past, maybe 6, 8 years ago. And at that time, the commission had the developer or his engineer come to the commission and address the commission on why they hadn't done anything or hadn't submitted the plans. And then they took action.
Well, I would think, let's see, I'm looking at one here that's 68 months since approval, another one that's 50 months since approval. This is just for the construction plans. Another one that's 32 months, one that's 18 months. I've got one that's 8 months and one that's 6 months. Now, the 3 with the 68, 50, and 32, if there was a problem, I think they would have come saw us by now. I don't think, personally, I don't think it's our responsibility to go out and look for them.
No,
because I don't. You want us to give direction to Michael Sanchez and say, go look for them? No.
The ordinance is clear.
But the thing is, when they come to us seeking a preliminary approval, they're in a rush for their preliminary approval. And then after they get the preliminary approval, it goes into, I hate to call it slow because I don't even think it's slow. I mean, it just nothing happens. So, looks to me, I mean, we have the grounds to go ahead and void these preliminary approvals. O'Neill, can we do that tonight, or do we have to go ahead and advertise that we're going to do that? Well, yeah, the construction deadline goes ahead and knocks everything out. Then I'd like to recommend to the commission that we go ahead and handle this next month. Let's take care of it. Let's go ahead and rescind these preliminary approval, or hold a public hearing to rescind these preliminary approvals.
Why do you need to do that? It's saying that the preliminary plat being automatically rescinded. So when they
That's after the 2 years, but we're talking about the construction plans now.
Right.
That's what, if I understood O'Neill correctly.
They get 6 months to submit construction.
Right, but it says the commission shall have the right to rescind the approval. No, after 6 months. I agree. My point is, beyond 24 months, you don't
The
need
first
to take
3,
action.
right.
You don't need to take action.
So why don't we?
Well,
The
and
ones
that's
that
not
are-
the ones that I was referring to the
ones
last 3.
between 6 and 24, it says you have the right to rescind approval. Okay? I think you need to be careful here, particularly with these wetland issues, is that it can take them a lot longer than 6 months to get a wetland permit.
Well, I've got one here from 2004.
Right.
I have yet to hear of a developer waiting 1.5 years, 2 years to get a wetlands determination. Now, I mean, if that's something that you've seen that happen, you know that that's happened.
Well, the only other way we could do it is that if, for instance, Cannon Place would submit construction plans to us, okay? According to this, we could come back and notify the commission and say, they've submitted construction plans, you know, is the preliminary plat still valid?
Well,
if we have a hearing, I mean, and we ask these people to come before us, they can give us some sort of answer. It's taken me 1.5 years to get a wetlands determination. The property hasn't sold. I have a Phase 1 ESA issue.
Well,
I mean, give them some chance to stand before us. I don't have a problem with that. But
that's fine too. We can go ahead and we can ask the developers, or request the developers for these 3 subdivisions come before the commission next month and give an explanation.
I think that's fair.
And if their explanation isn't satisfactory, then we have the option to rescind the preliminary approval.
I mean, do we call them before us, O'Neill, or can we send them a letter with the ordinance?
Well, I think we need to notice them.
Some notification? Due process?
Understand what you're doing here. You're going to be having people come here every meeting with a list of 2 or 3 that, I mean, it's common for them to go beyond 6 months.
That may be commonplace, but once again, I've got to look at the ordinances too.
Well,
right,
this was
but the
handed
ordinance
out
is
tonight
saying
just
you
to
have
get
the
everybody on board. I mean, I don't think we need to make a decision tonight.
right.
It's just to get everybody familiar with this process and what we should be doing.
And it says you have the right to rescind. And I would interpret this, let's say the new flood maps come out in November, and they're official. Then you have cause to notify those people that are dangling and say, we want to reapprove you and make sure that you know, that would be a reason to do it. What I'm trying to say is that you could choose to give a direction to the ERA that says when construction plans are submitted to you beyond 6 months from the approval, that we must notify you so that you're aware that they are moving forward. There may not be any cause for concern. You know, if we come to you and we say it's been 2 years or 18 months since they've submitted, and some ordinances have changed or whatever, there may be cause to say let's re-examine it. I'm just cautioning you that you're going to be having these subdivisions come up. If you want every one of them to come back to you in 6 months, every one of them is going to come back, because generally speaking, they're probably beyond 6 months before they submit construction plans to us.
Steve?
Since it says May for the construction plans, and it's 6 months, maybe a compromise would be to start looking at it at 12 months. So that would be looking at this Cannon Place. But the next 2 having a little bit more time based on the may or the shall clause there.
I just think 6 months is a short noose. Even though the ordinance gives you that right, I just think it's not saying that you have to do it. I mean, y'all do what you want. I'm just pointing out. Think about what you're doing and the number that are going to have to come back and be heard every meeting.
Michael, there's one other thing that I want to make sure I understand. If somebody does submit construction plans within the given 6 months, what would be the next trigger outside of the 24 months to say they're progressing?
That's basically it.
Nothing in between.
Not
So if they give you construction plans by a 6 month deadline or whatever we deem is allowable, then the next trigger event is the 2 year.
That's
mark.
correct. Generally speaking, it's on a complicated subdivision. It's easily 3 months from the time they submit until we have final approval. I mean, we go back and forth 2 or 3 submittals.
The reason I'm asking
that-
is I can think of another probably six or seven that's not on this list that's got to be approaching that 2-year deadline.
Well, and I think what Sean did, and I'd have to find out, that if they submitted the construction plans and they're active, he probably hasn't put them on the list. For Keystone is one example.
That's why I was asking, what's
They
that
haven't
next
built it.
trigger event?
Well, but they have been working on, they have construction plans, they've been working with O'Neill on, I mean, they're showing activity of moving forward. I think this is dealing with no one, you know, in other words, they get approved, we have no sign of activity for 6 months, or at the end of 24 months, they haven't started construction.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the stagnant. You know, if somebody's totally stagnant, I guess what I'm trying to understand is how, if somebody even surpasses the 2-year deadline and they're still, in your mind, they're progressing, how far do we let that carry on when things are changing as rapidly as they are?
Well, beyond the 2 years, according to this, they if they haven't started construction in 2 years, then they're rescinded. They're automatically rescinded.
Well, that's the way I see it, and I know that we've got more than that's on this list that's
Right.
approaching that 2-year mark.
Right. No, and there's been some old ones that have, you know, resurfaced, you know. It's just a matter of direction and policy from the commission to tell us what you want to do.
The whole idea was to get everybody on board with this and understand the meaning and the benefits of having it. I don't think we need to move on it. I think we ought to take it in for a month and decide what to do, or how to approach it. I mean, y'all were just giving it tonight.
Yes, Charles.
What we could do would be to, we could notify all of those who have been given approval and have not taken any action whatsoever as far as submittal of construction plans and consequently construction begun from 2 years after their preliminary approval. And we can tell them that the approval is voided because that's what the ordinance says. I mean, there's no even point of it coming back to you.
No, that's what I'm trying to make clear, that everybody understands that, because we have a number of them. A number of these subdivisions that are coming up on that 2-year mark. And if we're going to enforce it,
Everyone understands that, I'm pretty sure. That
The-
2-year period. Now, the 6-month period, historically, what it's been is that you would have 6 months to submit your construction, but at least submit them and get them in the review process. But if you haven't started construction within the 2 years, then it's automatically killed. That's it.
Right, and interpreting this, if I, as the ERA, know that a engineer is working on construction plans and hasn't even submitted, I could interpret that to mean if does not proceed with construction plans. You know, I could have knowledge that Ferris Engineering is working on Keystone and that they're proceeding. They may have some communication with us, and we would know that they're moving forward. So the way the ordinance is written, it's a little bit loose. It's just saying you need to see evidence that they're working, proceeding forward.
that's why I'm trying to get this terminology.
Right, and you as a commission, if you want to give us tighter direction or interpretation, I presume that you've got the right to do that.
Well, because the 2-year mark is specific enough. I mean, what you're talking about is submittal of construction plans and
The
progressing.
construction plans, right.
Which it doesn't say the term submittal.
I agree with Charles. I think when it hits 24 months, if there's no activity, that maybe Charles sends them a letter and says your plat's rescinded. Outside of that, I'm not sure that I would necessarily take any action. And I forget forget who mentioned it, but maybe the 12 months. I just think 6 months is a very tight noose to say, if you haven't submitted construction plans in 6 months, that it comes back and you're rescinded. I would give them at least a year.
Could we send those 6-month people a letter to say,
well,
where you at?
whatever y'all want to do. You could send a 6-month letter and say, it's been 6 months, please provide evidence that you're
Are you proceeding?
Are you proceeding?
According to 20.206.
My concern about a hearing is, you're going to be dragging these people back out here when you do a public hearing, and you can have people from Keystone wanting to. You're gonna potentially go through that battle again.
Well, we're not wanting to make our meetings any longer. I assure you.
I didn't say that, but.
And I'd agree with you, Mike. And as soon as the parish council goes ahead and changes it to 1 year, I'll go with it too. I mean, I don't like the idea any more than you do, but it's because of. I hate to say, it's the only word I know I use, the lax attitude that has been demonstrated in the past. I'm looking at 3 subdivisions right here that have gone well past 2 years, which, in my opinion, we shouldn't even be discussing this right now. Letters should have gone out for those subdivisions, and the commission should have been notified, hey, look, we sent these letters out. Their preliminary approval was automatically rescinded because it went past 2 years. And that was the whole intent of a status update report when the commission first adopted the concept about 2 years ago. Was to keep us informed of these things and how these subdivisions were proceeding, because developer comes before us, I need this a preliminary approval because I really got to develop this thing, and I've got all this money tied up. And then it goes away. It leaves us. We have no idea what's happening. And when I hear the term proceeding, that tells me very little. I don't know what's going on. Oh, it's proceeding. Now, I'm not 100% happy with our ordinances, but at the same time, we have to follow our ordinances. That's what I've been told. And 6 months is the time constraint that's been put on it. And I don't know that we will have that much trouble with it because the commission hasn't been exercising that right in the past. If a developer has to come back before the commission, maybe he'll go ahead and actually do something and speed things up.
Right.
Because they're in an awful big hurry when they come see us, because we got to have it right now. Right this minute. I just soon go ahead and stick with the 6 months, because that's the way the ordinances are written. That's my opinion. I'd really like to hear from some of the other commissioners.
Well, since it doesn't say submit, I mean, if it said submit in the 6 months, I think it'd be a different story. But we just need to know, I take it to mean we just need to know that he's proceeding with his final plat and construction plans. That's the way I interpret it. Is he proceeding? How do we know? Well, is he making some advancement? Is he working on the plans? Is he doing his studies or whatever the case may be? Maybe he's tied up with a wetlands issue. Maybe he's tied up with a phase 1 and it's taken him longer than 6 months. Maybe he hasn't even bought the property yet. I don't know. Maybe it's a deal that fell through. But if it said submittal, then I feel stronger about bringing him before us and rescinding. But if it doesn't say submittal, we just need to know that he's proceeding. Send him a letter. Are you proceeding? How are you proceeding? Maybe Michael can give us some words to use that say, how are you proceeding? Are you developing X, Y, Z? What's the criteria for proceeding? I don't know. Michael, what would you say the criteria for proceeding is? Give us that verbiage. Give it to the staff. Let him fire off a letter. Get his response back. If he can't prove that he's proceeding, then guess what? Then there you go. If he shows that he's doing some new drawings, he's got issues, Michael's comfortable with it, as far as an engineering term goes, O'Neill thinks it's okay with, then I'd feel better about that. But I kind of agree with Michael after listening that if we, I want to stick to the ordinance, but quite frankly, it's kind of loose. It just says if he's not proceeding with his final plat and construction plans, we need to know, are you proceeding? Here's a letter.
So tell me what the criteria is for proceeding. What constitutes proceeding? I still haven't gotten an answer to that.
Could be anything.
I mean,
It could be the developer writing a letter saying, I've authorized my engineer to proceed with construction plan. That could constitute proceeding.
it could mean a submittal of his construction plans.
The term that I see here is the commission shall have the right. And that's implying that it's not automatic like the 24 months. It's just saying the commission has the right. If there's some knowledge or some circumstances change and they haven't moved forward, their approval is in jeopardy. I don't construe that as an automatic. Or I think if it was intended to be automatic, it would be worded like the 24 months.
Can I make a recommendation? Could we move this to the subdivision meeting that's going to be in 2 weeks from now? And you guys hash it out there and then bring it back to the full commission next month?
We could do that.
Since this is a subdivision issue?
We could do that.
That's why I stated this was only supposed to come up for review.
Review it, we have.
Do we need a motion on that, or can you just do
You
that?
can go ahead and make it.
Okay, I make that as a motion to take this item to the subdivision meeting in 2 weeks.
Bring it back to us.
And they make a recommendation back to the full commission.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion to send the issue of projects that are beyond 6 months construction and a 2-year start construction deadline to the subdivision ordinance committee for a recommendation by the next commission meeting by Steve Barrow, seconded by Scott Courtwright. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Scott, I think you had an item of new business that you wanted to bring.
I do,
to the
real
commission.
briefly. I know that we've had some discussions about landscape ordinance, and we all know that we don't have a landscape ordinance in Ascension Parish yet, but we will have one, working towards that. But I wanted to make this available, this knowledge out there that even though the Ascension Parish does not have a landscape ordinance, I make comments sometimes and suggestions sometimes up here based on the fact that the state of Louisiana does have rules and regulations and laws for us to follow in that mindset of vegetation and landscape ordinance. I'm going to give you guys all a copy tonight of the Louisiana Horticulture Commission's laws and regulations, Title 3, Chapter 24, which gives authority to people that are licensed folks underneath this rule, underneath these guidelines, to do certain work. Some of those people that we've talked about up here before may be licensed horticulturists, landscape architects, landscape contractors, licensed arborists, licensed retail florists, and so forth and so on. You guys can read that. But basically what it says in here, and each one of the commissioners will get this and the staff will get one as well, is that when people come before us and say, I'm going to have a landscape architect look at that live oak, and they're going to help me, and they're going to write a plan to save this tree. Well, underneath Bob Odom's office, that's unacceptable, and I've said that from this seat before. We cannot have a landscape architect do that. They're not licensed in the state to do that. Now, if a landscape architect also has an arboricultural license, then they can work on big trees. But a landscape architect is not licensed by the state of Louisiana. No matter if we have a landscape contract or a regulation or not in this parish, statewide, they're not allowed to do that. So I'm giving this to you guys to read over so that when those issues come before us and we have people stand before us, developers that say they're tree huggers and that they're going to have a landscape architect take a look and protect their trees and so forth and so on, that we do have something to lean on right now to say, well, did you know Title III says that you have to hire somebody else? And I want to give those people's pointers and help them out. So that's what this is all about, is just helping those people out. But we need to have the knowledge so that we can share that with the people that come before us. So that's what I wanted to share with you. You guys will get a copy, and the staff will get a copy. So there you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving along, under old business, item 15A, Woodgate Estates. Request from developers of Woodgate Estates for Planning Commission to reconsider the turn lane requirement, which the Commission included as a stipulation in the preliminary approval granted this subdivision on May 12, 2006. Mr. Ferris.
Thank you. Greg Ferris, Ferris Engineering, representing America Homeland, LLC. At last month's commission meeting, y'all issued approval for the preliminary plat for Woodgate Estates. As part of that approval, y'all included the stipulation that we provide a turn lane into the development. We feel that requirement is unfounded based on the findings of the traffic study and the fact that the ERA had no comments on the preliminary plat. We respectfully request that you reconsider that stipulation tonight.
Comments or questions from the Commission?
I just had a question. We have intersection of 931 and LA 44. We dropped in a level of service from a C to a D, and I'm not finding 931 or 44 on here. So maybe you could tell me where that is in proximity to this subdivision.
931 and 44.
Sure you're on.
You looking at Woodgate Estates?
Yeah, I see what he's. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
top
looking
of the
at
top of the page there.
Second to last. Germany Road, LA 44.
Unless maybe that should be 934 at 44. You see what I'm talking about, Michael?
Something's not making sense, because this copy is saying Monroe and Corey as the engineer. Yeah, I don't know that these are the right copies for this
Yeah,
project.
that intersection's nowhere near this site.
Yeah. I think there may be the wrong handout here.
Mine says the same thing as yours.
Neil Shaker is the copy.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just that first page. I'm trying to.
The Neil Schaefer comments.
Yes. Babin Road and 74 and Babin Road at Airline Highway are the two intersections that were studied.
A to C, B to C.
Okay, so we must have a bad page here, but so you're not dropping any of the level of service that you see, Michael?
All turning movements post-developed level of service remain the same as pre-developed. So there were no drops in level of service.
There was a little back and forth on this issue. Julio had made the motion, and I had seconded it with the contingency in there. If I'm understanding correctly, the developer is not willing to put a turn lane, even a right-hand turn lane into that development, correct?
That's correct, yes.
What about an easement?
For a turn lane,
Mm-hmm.
we're willing to dedicate up to 10 foot of additional easement for that turn lane within the landscape buffer that we provided before. Yes, sir.
If that's all we're here to discuss, I'll offer a motion based on the fact that we as a commission cannot demand those type of things based on our ordinance. We had set a contingency last month on that, and really all the commission is not trying to act any certain way against one developer or anything. The thing that comes into play here is that this commission can never look at anything outside of one development for traffic impact. 2 years ago, we made those statements known. The council started looking at traffic impact fees, and I don't know whether the council will approve the traffic impact fees or not. But we've held off for 2 years looking at our traffic ordinance. I don't think there's anybody that'll disagree that the whole is showing an impact. We'll never see the impact on a subdivision by subdivision basis. But that's the reason that the commission is asking for, whatever we can get is along the lines of turn lanes, easements, and things of that nature. With that said, I also understand the developer's rights and that. So I'll offer the motion. If you're willing to give up the easement, that,
Yes.
I'd like to see that. If you're willing.
Yes, sir, we are.
The motion is to rescind the turn lanes and add the right-hand turn easement.
Second.
I have a motion by Mike Bardwell to rescind the right turn lane condition or contingency.
Contingency.
In lieu of, was it right turn or right
Turn easement.
right turn easement? Is there seconded by Steve Barrow? Is there any objection or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you.
And now we have item 16. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Scott Courtwright, second by Paige Becknell. Is there any opposition or discussion? And motion passes.